Welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies, where we watch a forgotten superhero movie and decide, does this belong in the Phantom Zone to be forgotten for forever, or out and about for everyone to rewatch and remember fondly? My name is Arnaldo, I'm your host, and I'm joined by...
Berto, co-host. But we usually talk about movies.
Yeah, we've been doing a bunch of random shit
We've been
lately.
getting a little experimental, just...
I was looking at our episode list, and it goes like, the last movie we touched was Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then,
Right.
we did, a review, and then, another random thing, then a Christmas thing, and then, the Phantom Awards. And then today we're not doing a movie.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done, a more traditional episode,
Yeah.
and if that's what you're into, I'm sorry.
I mean, it's one of those things
Give
where
us
it's
kind of like a break,
Yeah.
but we're still putting shit out.
and, on a podcast, you can just not click on that episode.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
If it's
not,
something that's not interesting
Yeah.
to you, you can skip it.
It's not like you tuned in to, TV on a week, and they're like, hey, instead of the normal show, we're going to just experiment for a while and
This
do
is a
something
bottle
different.
episode.
Yeah, exactly. So this is our bottle episode. On that note, we are doing a video game, which we have never done before. It's a brand new concept.
Yeah.
But start from the beginning. We are live on Twitch. We record every episode on Twitch. And that's something we started doing 6 months ago, maybe a little bit. We've been doing this for a
Time
minute.
is a son of a bitch. I don't
Yeah, it
know
really
how
is.
long it's been.
But in effort to just kind of still be streaming on Twitch, we started playing video games.
Yeah.
And we started with Marvel's Spider-Man, the PlayStation 4 game, because we were kind of in the Spider-Man moment, and we're like, let's invest some time on Twitch by playing Spider-Man.
Because there was a little indie movie coming out called Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, have you heard of it? Have you seen it?
If not, you should check it out. It's
Yeah.
decent.
Well, yeah, we saw it. There's a review. And as we were wrapping it up, we did it for 4 weeks. So we just took a big break. And then we came back, we did the Phantom Awards. That's available now. Because the game is so good and it's so cinematic.
Yeah.
And if you just watch the cutscenes, you can basically treat it like a movie.
A very long movie, but
Yes, not a
a
short
movie nonetheless.
And we were just like, what if we treat this like a movie and did an episode on it?
Yeah.
Kind of like a regular style episode, kind of like what we usually do. Even though it's not a movie, it's not forgotten. It's one of the most popular video games ever, basically. At least in the last 5 years.
And honestly, well deserved.
Yeah.
Spoiler, we liked it.
Yeah, so here's how this is going to go, I think. Play a game on some days on Twitch, and if it's really good and we finish it, like a superhero game,
Right.
then we can recap the plot and talk about the game and do the whole thing like we're
Yeah.
doing today.
Especially with stuff we also have with Miles Morales, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Guardian, that's a brand new game. That came out over
That came out
November
a few months
something?
ago, yeah.
I mean, there's Arkham games we can play now for, it's Batman season pretty soon.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff we can do. So
It's obviously we want to make sure that we have fun doing it too. So
yeah. And you have recently unearthed every single superhero video game from the last 20 years.
yeah, I've
From PlayStation 4.
I found some stuff and then I went hunting for some more stuff. So now I have a shit ton of just comic book based video games, and I'm planning on doing something with all that. Maybe something that can make our YouTube channel a little more enticing to people.
Ooh, make it spicy.
Yeah.
I feel like you had a Field of Dreams moment where you were like, I don't know why I'm collecting all these games, but I'm going to collect them all, and then something will occur to me. I will build it, and they will come.
Yes.
So I think what we're going to do is background for the game, right? Because this is kind of a new format, right? Then we're going to talk about the plot of the game,
Right.
as we usually would. And then for analysis, we can talk about gameplay. We can talk about how the game makes us feel, all kinds of things. There's a spinoff, there's sequels coming, that kind of thing. I don't see any reason to put it into a Phantom Zone situation or not, because we wouldn't have played the game if we didn't love it.
We would have stopped.
We would have, yeah, exactly. So if we got to this point where we played it enough, beat it,
Yeah.
enjoyed the narrative enough to be like, let's treat it like a movie and record an episode about it, then yeah, it's got to be good. So there's no point in us being like, oh no, this game sucks.
No, I might do some stuff with games that suck.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you can bring games over and we can play games that suck together. That's great. I would love to do that. But I'm not going to sit and record a podcast about it, is all I'm saying.
No, yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the background for this game. Did I really introduce this game very well? Okay, so let's talk talk about the background for this.
This is a little indie game.
Yeah. For this game, it's called Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4, remastered for the PlayStation 5 from 2018.
If you can find a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, right. If you can do that.
You can play the superior version of it.
Well, it looks incredible. I've seen people play it, like on Twitch.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like, PS5s are unreal.
Too bad you can't find one.
Yeah, we'll say. But,
over a year later, and they're still...
All right, so this game, made by Insomniac, their first Spider-Man title.
Yes.
And really, what I think a lot of this game is they're just piggybacking off of all the Activision 3D games, which I want to talk about.
Okay.
They're basically continuing that idea that the Activision games have been done.
Improving upon it greatly, though.
Yeah, but they use that as the kind of formula, and then they also inserted a ton of Arkham into this game.
Oh, absolutely. This is a very Arkham-inspired game.
Yes. I really think this is just an up-to-date Activision Spider-Man with Arkham elements that they stole, but also, and this is why we're talking about this game today, an incredible story.
Yeah.
Like, you can see the development of Spider-Man all the way back to the first 3D Spider-Man game. Spider-Man. I have a list here,
Spider-Man
actually.
by Neversoft Entertainment, the guys that made Tony Hawk.
Oh, yes. In the year 2000 for PlayStation, N64, and Dreamcast and PC.
Yes.
This was a game that was loosely based on the TV show, I think. Like, they used the same...
They used the same voice actor. They used the same, like, art style. Like, the way everything looked was very much inspired by the TV. I don't know if it's in the same, like, canon as the TV show.
Uh-huh.
Could be.
Stan Lee does the...
Stan Lee does the narration.
Yeah, I had this on N64.
Oh, this game is...
kind of great, right?
It's great. I replayed it recently. It's kind of difficult. A lot of it might be because of dated controls, though.
Yeah. And it wasn't fully open world, but it was the first game to put Spider-Man in 3D. And there's like 20 Spider-Man games that came out before this. And that was
like the year 2000, so 3D gaming is still relatively new at this point.
Yeah.
Like less than a decade old.
Right. But definitely ambitious. I remember really small map. You only needed the map to use from like place to place within each level, right? Because it's still level based.
It's still level based, yeah. And then the whole time you just have a compass kind of telling you where to go.
Right.
His Spidey compass, he calls it.
Yeah, I just remember spending a lot of time, because again, it's a really small map. The Sony building is there. And it might be because PlayStation was like the big one or whatever, but the Sony building in New York is the building that has the big kind of like this thing.
Oh, yeah.
On it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's been in
it's
every...
in the first level.
It's in the first level, and it's been in every Spider-Man game since, and I think that's kind of why, because they probably didn't have to license the building.
No, it was probably just easy to use, and also like it's a pretty unique looking building.
It's always fun in like Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
But there are 2 sequels to that game that I didn't know existed until today. Have you played those?
I own one of them. I haven't played it before. The Enter Electro one I own.
Uh-huh.
There was one on the Game Boy, the Sinister Six, that I haven't played. And Mysterio's Menace, that is actually technically the third game in
that's
this
a Game
series.
Boy game, though.
It is. But yeah, Spider-Man Mysterio's Menace is considered the third game in this little trilogy, though.
But it's not like 3D, right?
No, it's just a Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah.
But I guess story-wise, yeah. And then after these games, we moved on to like the movie tie-ins.
Yes. But what I think is kind of crazy about the 2002 Spider-Man game, which is the first movie's tie-in game, is that it feels exactly like that last game.
The gameplay is almost the same. The only real difference is just like the way it looks.
We were talking about this literally yesterday because we do hang out outside of the podcast. Like, not everything we say to each other is recorded and published. But we were hanging out. We were talking about video games. And there was like about 10 years ago was kind of the end of every major movie needed a video game to go with it, to like tie in, because
they weren't doing
they weren't good.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to build a game that'll match a movie. But for one, the movie is never done fast enough in order to make the game. Games take a long time to build.
Yeah, and the issue is the games are always having to be rushed out in order to meet this impossible deadline of when the movie's going to come out.
Yeah. And a lot of times also, the movie is either being rewritten, reshot, like on the day. We know how, we talk about this. This is kind of how movies get made. A lot of times they're recut in the edit. They don't know how the movie is going to go, basically, until a few months before the movie comes out and the game is due. So they basically have to build a game and then have it tie in very loosely if they want release dates to be anywhere near each other.
Right.
And that's why you get a lot of games where they're very loosely based. Like they're official tie-ins, but the plot of the game never matches the plot of the movie.
No. The ones I tend to like are the ones that like take place like after the movie, where it's like, oh, the events of the movie happened and then this happened.
Here's some other interesting stuff.
Yeah, those tend to work better for me.
Well, here's a really, probably, maybe the best example of a video game tie-in. Did you ever play Enter the Matrix?
I have not. I know quite a bit about it, but I've never played it.
So it's a video game that was released concurrently with the movies.
It's canon, right?
It is canon. And you don't play as any of the main characters. You play as the side characters. And they have their own adventures that tie in. But it serves as a supplementary material to the movie.
And they filmed scenes for it too, right?
And they filmed full scenes with the actors and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not in the movie. So it's not like they took shots from the movie and put it in the game. No, the cutscenes are additional footage that they filmed in the movie set specifically for the game.
It's very interesting. And if I remember correctly, like people were like, oh yeah, the story's cool, but it's like the gameplay feels like, eh.
I really enjoyed the gameplay, but it was a long time ago. Like, who knows if you pick it up now? It might be a little wonky. It was,
what, like 2004?
Yeah, it might be wonky. I think it was 03.
03? Oh, shit.
Anyway, so what I think is super interesting about this one is that they made, between this and the sequel, one of the best, like, movie tie-in video games ever. It's like this and GoldenEye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the game was already there. They had been developing this game for years already. All they did was reskin it. Like updated graphics. It was for the next generation console. And the theme is the movie version.
Yeah.
Characters and it's very loose plot, right? Because I remember most of that game is like, has nothing to do with the movie. And then there's like
you're
two
like
or three
fighting other villains.
Yeah. There's like 2 or 3 levels that tie in. And you can tell that was the stuff that they just did at the last minute to make it match.
To make it a movie game. Yeah.
But I remember some of my favorite levels on the game, because that one is level based, weren't in the movie.
No.
They were just really fun levels that you could tell those are the levels they put a lot of time into. And like you free swing. So like the swinging is just kind of like
you're
off
webbing
of the
sky.
Yeah. And it's just kind of the same motion.
You're basically
over and
flying, but there's an animation where you're shooting webs.
But there were also really good physics in that game. And I remember there were all kinds of little where you could like practice jumping and landing on platforms and shooting things while you fly. And you could also play the game back as the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Which was also awesome.
Did you have to beat the game or did you have to put in a cheat code?
I think
or both. Okay.
I think you could do the cheat code or you could unlock it if you beat the game.
Okay. You're playing through the same game again. You're the Green Goblin, but he plays a little bit differently because he has his glider.
And he's got guns.
Yeah, you just fly around and shoot people, honestly.
Yeah. It was awesome. I love that game.
Well, and then after that, we get what people actually do consider one of the best movie tie-in games ever. It was a Spider-Man 2 game.
Yes.
They developed a whole new way of web swinging specifically for that game.
That's kind of
I think it's patented, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that game mechanic.
Probably the 2 biggest things that made that game what it is the swinging mechanic.
Yep.
And the open world sandbox in a huge map. Obviously not to scale Manhattan, but
at the time it felt like it.
It felt humongous. You'd never seen a map that big.
No.
You know?
Maybe like Grand Theft Auto 3 or something.
Well, yeah, and I was going to bring up Grand Theft Auto 3 because it's not like Spider-Man 2 invented the sandbox open world game.
No, it's already been a thing.
Popularized by Grand Theft Auto, but Grand Theft Auto is an adult's game. It's not for kids, even though we played it as kids.
I did.
Yeah, a lot. But Spider-Man 2 took that concept and applied it to their game, and now you have Spider-Man roaming the entire city. You can no longer swing freely. You have to plan your swinging. You have to be near buildings.
It's very physics based.
Yeah.
You can deliver pizza.
Oh yeah.
And you can't do like flips while you swing or the pizza will get messed up.
Right, or like 30 minutes or your ass is fired.
Just like the movie.
Just like the movie. Spider-Man 3 I really liked, but I know
Most
it's not
people don't.
popular. It's essentially the same game. I don't see why people like view it that negatively.
It's buggy. It's a lot buggier.
I don't think I had any bugs.
What
I liked about it is that
it looks ugly. It's an ugly game.
I thought it looked exactly like the last one. Maybe I'm misremembering. What I liked about that one is that at a certain point in the game, you unlock the black suit.
Right.
And then you run faster, you swing faster, the camera gets shaky. I thought all that. He's stronger. I thought all that was really interesting. But the same companies ended up making the Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 games. in between those, there were some other ones. There's a cell-shaded
There was
one.
Ultimate Spider-Man, which is a cell-shaded one, which is basically Spider-Man 2, like gameplay-wise.
It's very similar, yeah.
Yeah. Just it took the story of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics and did a thing with that. So you had Venom in that, which is cool. And then the last one that was made by Treyarch was Web of Shadows, which plays a lot into like the symbiotes and the black suit and stuff. That's another one of those games that's very expensive to find.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are split on that game. So a lot of people think it's really fucking great. A lot of people think it's terrible. And then Shattered Dimensions was the first game made by a new studio that Activision brought in called Beanox.
Okay.
They did Shattered Dimensions, which was, it can be considered the game that inspired the like Spider-Verse storyline.
Yeah,
both comics and the movie. So you have Amazing Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Man 2099 all in the same game. It goes back to the level-based, which was a little weird because the past like 3 Spider-Man or 4 Spider-Man games have all been open world.
Yeah.
But people liked it.
It had a good reason too. Like it had, right? Like
it had a good reason too, because like you're playing as different characters in their own worlds. They weren't gonna make like 4 separate open. That's a lot to do. And then there was Edge of Time, and then the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in games.
Yes.
Which the first one was considered good.
I bought that game, and I had fallen off from Spider-Man games for a while since like Spider-Man 3. But I was really hoping that it was another kind of classic Spider-Man game like the ones we've been talking about.
It sort of
I think it
is.
tries to.
It's the first one that starts to use combat somewhat inspired by Arkham, though.
Yeah.
Like the free-flowing combat type deal, and then like the countering and stuff like that.
Yep.
The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was the first game that tried it. It's a little clunky, but it's not terrible.
Was that the one that you had to do left trigger to swing with your left hand and right trigger to swing with your right hand? Or am I making this up? Did this ever happen?
I think that was Spider-Man 2.
Amazing Spider-Man 2?
No, like regular Spider-Man 2, you had to...
Really?
Yeah, you had to use both hands.
I think you're right, because then you could have the option of doing both at the same time, and he would swing with both.
Yeah, and you can like just hold... You can just sit there like that.
If you didn't let go, you would just stop.
Yeah. I think that was Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man had... I think it does the swinging from the sky again, kind of.
No, you have to be on the building.
It has to be near stuff. The thing with Amazing Spider-Man was the camera
shaky
angle.
Cam.
It had the shaky cam when you swung. That's the only thing I didn't like about that
I didn't
game.
like that at all.
The rest of the game was actually pretty good.
We were just talking about this off mic or whatever,
Yeah.
but that first Amazing Spider-Man movie, and we talked about this in that movie episode, that movie had the least popular Spider-Man suit.
Which sucks, because that's one of my favorite suits.
Me too. Mine same.
But yeah, no, even today, a lot of people don't like it.
And two biggest things, I think, it's the lens color and the lack of belt.
Yeah.
Because once you take that belt off, it has a nice kind of like flow to the costume.
It gives it like a wetsuit look.
Yeah. But it's not a very Spider-Man looking costume. As soon as you take the belt off, it's almost like it doesn't look like Spider-Man anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And apparently, we were just talking about this, maybe it was an issue in the studio too. Because as soon as you turn that game on, it's like, all right, pick a difficulty level, pick if you want to wear a belt or not. They took the costume and they slapped a belt on it just to resolve this thing.
Honestly, the costume looks weird with the belt on it, I think.
It does. I took it off. I said no belt. But it's weird. I've never seen a game do that up front. It's like, hey, very minor detail.
Do you want it to look like the movie, or does that bother you?
Like, which ridiculous camp do you fall into before we start this game? We need to know. It's like we were just playing, obviously, this game, and I play vertical inverted camera.
Oh, I can't do that shit.
And you don't. So when you play a game, like you have to go deep into the settings to find that and turn it off. This was not one of those. It was, you turn the game on, belt or no belt. It's so weird.
I guess it was just that big of an issue. And then we have Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That one's garbage.
That one is considered not good. I remember hating it.
I got a refund for that game. I only played it for about 10 minutes.
No, I enjoyed it, and thank God I kept my copy, because that's another game that's very difficult to find. See, I mean, it's not a fantastic game, but I mean, I liked it for what it was.
It seemed worse than the first one.
It was worse than the first one.
Okay, well.
The swinging was better, though, which is weird.
Okay.
So the swinging was better. Everything else was pretty much worse. Carnage is the main villain in that game.
Oh, that's very interesting.
It's very interesting because it also loosely follows the story of the second movie.
Right. But again, they have to add so much other shit to like fill it out and stuff.
Which is something the actually previous game didn't do. The Amazing Spider-Man 1, that game served as like one of those things I was talking about where it takes place after the movie, which I liked. I thought it was really interesting, but none of it's canon after The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
As soon as the sequel comes out, yeah.
Which,
so it's like
whatever. But yeah, after that, we didn't have Spider-Man games for a few years, and then
basically this.
I guess Sony allowed Insomniac the license to this, because Insomniac, they worked on like Spyro the Dragon and like all those games.
Oh, the sequel. What was that called?
Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage?
No. The Skylanders.
I don't know if they did Skylanders, but they did Spyro, Ratchet and Clank, the Resistance series, which is like an alternate history alien invasion during World War II thing, which is interesting, but it wasn't as popular.
Cool.
And then they made this game, and this game is very popular, and now they are working on a sequel and a Wolverine game that supposedly takes place in the same universe.
Not to mention the Miles Morales spinoff.
Apparently started off as DLC, but I guess it just got so big they just made it like a standalone thing. It feels more like an expansion, I guess.
Well, they sold it for a smaller price, too.
Yeah, it was like $20 cheaper, so it was like a $40 game. Yeah. Also, very good game. Yeah. You should play it.
Yeah, I'm going to play it next. I'm just trying to 100% this game. But yeah, let's get into this game. Marvel Spider-Man 2018 on the PlayStation 4, now also 5. Let's get into the plot of... I keep wanting to say the movie. This is not a movie.
The plot of the movie of the video game.
Yeah. And this might go a little bit longer than usual because video games are longer. Like, there's a lot more hours of exposition that they put into this, and there's some...
Yeah.
In a movie, a lot of the fat would have gotten cut out. You know, it's not designed the same way.
No, and, like, in the case of a video game, I guess all the fat would be, like, the gameplay.
Yeah, and not only that, the plot is created in a way to serve a player instead of a viewer. Like, it's different to want to do something and want to see it be done. You know what I mean? Like, action sequences last way longer. Obviously, there's more of them. There's story beats that we're going to get into that, like, don't really serve purposes narratively, but it gives you more stuff to do in the game.
Yeah, like pretty much every side mission.
Peter Parker is awakened by his police dispatch app, sending backup units to Fisk Tower. He dons his classic Spider-Man suit, and through his mask's computerized heads-up display, he pauses to look at the overdue bill on the floor and the phone still sounding police. He is once again forced to decide to attend to the life of Peter Parker or the responsibilities of Spider-Man. Police Captain Yuri Watanabe warns Spider-Man that in order to take down Fisk, aka Kingpin, they'll have to go by the book. He arrives to Fisk Tower, fights his way inside, and finally fights Kingpin, who is arrested once and for all, yelling, "In 1 month, you'll wish I was back."
Yeah. This is a good intro to the game.
This is a great intro to the game, especially if you replay it and you start to see all the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
In 1 month from this, narratively, the whole city
goes
crashes.
to hell.
Yeah, everything goes to hell. It's as bad as it can get.
Yeah, Kingpin kind of was like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he was also kind of keeping the city in check in a weird way.
I guess. I was watching this and I'm like, I kind of have to remind myself this is a video game in a comic book universe. Because he gets to, and also this is the tutorial level.
Yeah.
He gets to like a corner on the street. The police is in a firefight with like Fisk's guards, and they all have like strike team outfits that say like Fisk on them.
He has like his own militia.
Yeah, like imagine if like you go down the street and the police are shooting at people with like, it says like Donald Trump on like their vest. Like, that's not legal in any way, you know?
Well, I mean, he is breaking the law. That's why the cops are here.
Well, yeah, but like, how do you... Because the thing about Kingpin is that like he always lawyers up. He wiggles out of everything.
Yeah.
You know, they can never get him down. He's a mafia boss, right? Yeah. But like, it's a whole nother level to just be like how do you can't get out of that? You know what I mean? Like, your dudes are mowing down cops. And they got your name on them.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
But again, it's a video game. Try not to think too hard about that, but as far as and I'm gonna try to focus on the narrative, but I mean gameplay too. As far as tutorial levels are concerned, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's like, a very like
super exciting first level of the game.
Yeah, like you're thrown right into it, and should also be noted like at this point, like I think we find out that Peter Parker's been Spider-Man for like quite a few years.
Yeah,
like 8 years or something like that.
Something like that. I remember there's a number. Yeah, it's 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, Ben Parker died in 2010.
Okay.
Within the context of this.
And this game takes place in 2018 when the game came out.
Yeah. Peter arrives to work late where his boss, Dr. Otto Octavius, has begun testing a robotic arm without him. Octavius is strapped into a harness with big cables coming out of his back that connects his brain to a robotic arm. Peter, his intern, is helping him design neural-linked robotics to assist physically disabled patients. The machine breaks and smokes up the room, disappointing the board of directors there to renew Dr. Octavius's grant. Peter fixes the machines.
So if you don't know who Otto Octavius is...
But nobody doesn't know who Otto Octavius is, and that's the genius of this fucking game. The whole story keeps on teasing, you, like, when does he become Doc Ock?
When is he going to become Doc Ock? Because at this point, he and Peter are very good friends.
Yeah, he's his mentor, he's his boss.
Yeah, like Peter looks up to him.
Yeah, and other characters keep telling him, like, you could do whatever you want. You can get another job. You can work at Oscorp. You can work at other places. You're a brilliant
Norman
scientist.
Osborn himself is like, hey, if you want to work for me, you can do it. And then Peter's like, nah, like, Otto's a good guy.
Yeah, but he is exactly where he wants to be. He wants to be working for Octavius. Oh, and this is because, you know, Marvel is very picky about their universes.
Yes.
This is universe, because this is obviously a whole new thing. 1048. 1048.
Earth 1040, or I don't think they go by Earth. I think they just go by universe. Yeah, Earth is a DC thing.
No. They do. Marvel also goes by Earth.
They go by Earth also?
Yeah, I copied and pasted this, and it says Earth 1048.
Okay.
I think DC also, because there's Earth 2 and...
DC has lower numbers.
Yeah. Because Marvel implies that there's a gajillion of them.
Yes.
Like, the MCU is like 1999999. Something weird. Yeah, something crazy. And obviously the 616 is like the main universe.
It's the main comic book universe.
They could have called it 1. They went with 616.
616.
But yeah, I don't think ever in any iteration of comics and Doc Ock and Spider-Man have they had this kind of relationship. Like,
no, it's something that felt very unique.
Yeah, it did. And it did feel like they are borrowing a teensy-wincy bit from the movie, Spider-Man 2. Where
a little bit.
He starts having that relationship with Doc Ock as like maybe a mentor, Otto, and then he becomes Doc Ock.
Yeah, except we have hours of it here, whereas in the movie we have like 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, right. Again, this game is assuming that you know who Doc Ock is, you know who Otto Octavius is.
Yeah, which most people do.
But again, that opening shot of him, he doesn't have the arms on, but he's just standing in front of a bunch of cables, and those cables form the four arms.
There's a lot of like visual foreshadowing going on here, and it's wonderful, honestly.
Good stuff, man. If you think about it, this makes way more sense than that Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock, where he's like, my main objective is I'm going to invent the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, this infinitely renewable energy resource. And oh, by the way, I also invented these crazy fantastical robotic arms just to like help me control it.
They have to be controlled by a neural uplink.
Like that, you were jumping through a lot of hoops to like, why doesn't you have a robot to do it? You know what I mean? Like you put them on your own back.
Why does it have to be you?
But it's like, that's the invention right there. Like, the arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not the unlimited power source that you failed to achieve.
You're like, oh, and just like on the side, I invented this incredible thing to help me with it. I get, and if you haven't played this game, it should be noted that there are a lot of little puzzle mini games you have to do in order to fix the arms. And...
Yeah, because Otto's kind of a bozo in this universe.
He's like the big picture guy. And...
Peter always has to go in and fix everything.
Yeah, Peter's a little tinkerer who has to fix all the bugs. Yuri asks Spider-Man to repair the potentially hacked police towers, conveniently giving him access to their data, including 50 backpacks Peter littered around the city while in high school. He helps her clean up the streets as his third alias, Spider Cop. Part man, part spider, all cop. Spider-Man returns to the lab to repair his suit after Otto steps out for the day, but he walks in on him and sees Spider-Man's suit. He assumes that Peter is working for Spider-Man, making his suits and gadgets. Peter falls asleep working and finds that Otto designed Spider-Man a new, more advanced suit with white accents and an oversized white spider on the front and back.
So, the police towers, they're like surveillance towers just spread out throughout. Is that a little like Orwellian?
You think?
I think a little bit.
I thought it was just a device to give you something to do and open up the map.
It is, but like in universe, like these are like
Breath of the Wild
surveillance towers. That's like, oh yeah, we can just detect crime that's going on everywhere.
I see it more as like a big GPS kind of thing. to like triangulate all the cars, and if they say, hey, there's a, we're going this way, and they're like, oh, we got this many, because they need to see on a screen where all their units are.
Right, but it's mass surveillance over the entire city.
I mean, maybe a little bit.
So I don't...
Did you get the impression that they were hacked by Doc Ock this early on? Because
I don't know.
It seemed early because he hadn't started putting the Neuralink on him that makes him angry and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think
secretly, spoilers for later on in the game, he secretly has his own base somewhere else in Times Square. He had been doing all kinds of other stuff. That doesn't just all happen at once. He had been building that for a while. And I think at one point he does like get information on maps or something. I think he may have hacked into the police towers because Yuri's like, yeah, someone fucked with these and we don't know who it is.
Maybe. I don't know though, because the whole implication to that, it's the arms that kind of like pushed him over the edge to actually like...
Yeah, that the Neuralink isn't working very well, and it kind of gives him doesn't give him a split personality, but it makes him angry when they're on.
Yeah.
And he's sort of kind of more reactionary and upset and...
Bad guy-ish.
Bad guy. But that's the thing, like, within his side plot, he hasn't plugged in yet. They're still working on the arm independently, right. I think. So unless if he's doing it while Peter's
Norman
not around,
hasn't like come back and like pissed him off yet either.
That too. So maybe not.
So yeah, I don't think it was Doc Ock, but I don't know if we ever do find out who hacks him.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like it's like a kind of a...
What if it was Norman?
Hanging thread. But why?
I don't know.
Okay. People didn't like the suit when the first trailer came out for this.
People didn't like the white spider.
It's a big old white spider, right? Just plastered up front.
I love this suit.
It grew on me playing the game, but when I saw it, I thought it was not
like
good.
Too different.
I was like, this is radical. Like, it is very white. But, I mean...
it also helps that you start off with the classic suit, too. And if you want to, during the game, you can switch to it whenever you want.
And there's a million suits you keep on unlocking, and that's part of the fun of games like this. And I'm glad a lot of games do this now. Is ton of skins.
Yeah.
Just so many.
Especially with like superhero games where like superheroes have a bunch of costumes that they switch between.
One of my favorite things about the Arkham games is that like they put in every Batman costume imaginable.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of them look weird on that model of Batman because he's too big for most of them.
Yeah.
Because like I'll put on like the Batman Beyond skin. I'm like, this looks wrong.
Well, Terry McGinnis is also more slender than Bruce Wayne.
He's like a ballerina boy.
But yeah, it really came around, and I'm being hypocritical because I'm the one that said these suits should evolve and there could be room for something different as long as you keep on going back to the classics, you know? So yeah, I mean, it grew on me while I played the game. You did say it grew
on you, so yeah.
Yuri has Spider-Man shut down secret Fisk drug sites disguised as construction sites. Using a combination of stealth detective work and all-out brawl combat, Spider-Man puts an end to all of Fisk's operations. Peter arrives at Feast, the food, emergency aid, shelter training, where Aunt May works with her boss, Martin Lee. He distracts her while the others set up a surprise party for her years of service. May wishes Peter and Mary Jane could work things out. That's the first indication you get that, like, they're not together.
Happy relationship. I actually like the Peter and Mary Jane relationship in this game. It feels more like a real one.
I really like that this isn't an origin story. It's 8 years in. He's been Spider-Man. Everyone knows who he is. We're not doing all that.
This world is like established and like lived in already. Like things have already happened.
And so part of the fun is if you're a Spider-Man fan and you know his rogues gallery, you know his history, you know his side characters, you're waiting for them to pop up and see what the context is, what this perspective is going to be.
Or even what their design's going to look like in this universe.
Or if he's met them yet. Because, I mean, early on in this game, as soon as he puts Fisk away, like a little screen pops up and it's like, oh, Fisk is going into the raft with all my other nemesis. And you see all the other... You see like
Rhino's
locked up,
Rhino,
Scorpio's locked up.
Electro.
And Vulture.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the guys that like are already... They already exist, and he's already like dealt with them.
He's already fought them and everything, yeah.
But simultaneously, we know that Doc Ock hasn't become Doc Ock yet.
No.
So you're kind of waiting to see, like,
so
who is there a goblin in this universe?
Is there a goblin? You don't know. Is there a lizard? Is there a black cat? You know?
Yeah. What's Mary Jane? Where's Gwen Stacy? Like, where Harry Osborn? Like, where are all these other characters?
Mm-hmm. And you do kind of slowly find out where a lot of these people fit into this specific universe.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I like here, where it's like we said, like, Mary Jane is in this universe and they've already broken up. Like, it didn't work out or something.
Yeah. At least he would slap her.
That's true. Mary Jane investigates Fisk's art estate, looking for clues of money laundering, but finds a file on Devil's Breath instead. She almost gets herself killed by some masked thieves as Spider-Man arrives and saves her. Spider-Man notices their antique Asian masks and strangely powered weapons. He and Mary Jane meet up for dinner to discuss their findings and awkwardly catch up. We learn that they haven't spoken much in the last 6 months since they broke up, and the manager, played by Stan Lee, says it's great to see them together again.
Yeah, we have our Stan Lee cameo.
That was fun, especially since it's not a guarantee you're playing a game.
Yeah.
You know? And he hadn't died yet when this game came out.
No, this was maybe a year before?
Or was this like a posthumous thing? Where he had it recorded and then...
That could be it too. What year did he die? Was it 2018?
Because I think for like Into the Spider-Verse it was like that. He had already passed.
He had already passed and then...
He sold him the little costume, remember?
It always fits, eventually.
Zoom into no refunds.
And he's just smiling.
Died in November of 2018. So probably
right after this game came out, yeah.
Spider-Man beats the Shocker, and Peter goes to ask Martin Lee about the mask he found off the thugs called the Demons, and returns to Otto's lab as Osborn shows up to shut down Octavius' funding. He says hi to Peter and mentions that Harry will be back from Europe soon. Peter assures Otto that they can continue their research.
I noticed that while Spider-Man was fighting the Shocker, you find out that Shocker's working for somebody, and he's very scared of who he's working for.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there are a lot of little clues here. That's what I'm saying. I think he's already doing Doc Ock stuff on the side.
I think he was working for the Demons at this point, though.
Oh, you think?
I think so. Because he was saying, like they're going to kill me if I don't get this money.
Oh, the Demons, yeah.
Yeah.
That might be it. Yeah. Spider-Man investigates a Fisk site with police officer Jefferson Davis. Together, they find that the Demons are ransacking Fisk's weapons. Despite not calling for backup... Come on, dude.
Like a normal cop.
Like what a cop should do, yeah. The two successfully stop the Demons, and Davis is heralded as a local hero. Peter is evicted from his apartment and crashes on Aunt May's couch at Feast after debating staying with MJ.
I don't think MJ would have let him stay
Probably
at this point.
not. He was just talking out loud about it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this game, we're going to talk about it when we get to the analysis, though, is the web swinging. This game has a ton of fast travel points.
Yeah.
And you don't use them. I don't know about you. I barely...
No, I don't really use it. Unless I'm like, oh, I need to be at this area like now.
In this last playthrough, I think I used it once. And I think I was just kind of annoyed that I missed a thing and I was far away and I didn't want to swing all the way back. But the swinging mechanic is so fun that even though this map is pretty huge...
Yeah, it's massive.
You kind of don't want to fast travel. Like, you enjoy... swinging from place to place, and part of that is that it makes it entertaining.
Like the city has like a life to it in this game.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
There's something going on everywhere. It's not like those old like Spider-Man 2 where it's like, yeah, you have New York, but if you go back and look at it, it's like the city's kind of just like dead. Yeah,
this feels very alive, very real. There's tons of side missions. There's also like the backpacks. And there's taking pictures of landmarks.
Yeah, there's
secret
collectibles
landmarks.
And like just a lot of little things to do while you're swinging around. You might get distracted for like 2 hours.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then there's all the fucking crimes. And the thing is like that puts you in the position of Spider-Man for a minute, where you're like, okay, I have a place to be. Like I need to go over there, but there's a crime in like a block away.
I need to stop it.
What do I do? Like, do I go and stop it? And, you know, the game rewards you for doing crimes. It gives you tokens, and you need the tokens for upgrades and all that stuff. But, like, you could ignore it, but are you a good Spider-Man if you ignore the crime? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's something that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game actually kind of toys with, but to the point where it's annoying, where you get penalized if you avoid crimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a little bit annoying. Again, in this one, you get rewarded.
It's one of those things where, like,
and you have to do it.
I get it.
Yeah.
But... yeah, I'd rather have the choice and not, you know, I don't want my gaming experience to be disrupted. You know?
Like pestering.
Yeah, it's like you have to stop that crime or else.
Well, this one, sometimes if it's like a getaway type deal, it'll put on the screen like failed.
Does that annoy you?
It's just kind of like, like it hurts, you know? Like I got to stop the guy. Oh, but I was saying with the series of J. Jonah Jameson radio bits and then also phone calls that he takes. Those things entertain you while you swing. And I find myself like sometimes like I'm into his radio bit or I'm into the call.
Yeah, it adds to the narrative and it builds on like this little world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like I'll find myself like getting distracted of like, oh no, I wanted to go do this thing, but I want to hear what they're going to say though.
Yeah, so I don't want to swing there like too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to miss anything.
And I think you pointed out to me that if you're swinging, his dialogue is more like exasperated and like out of breath. Whereas if you were standing still, his dialogue switches to like regular.
Like a regular conversation.
Yeah.
And another thing they do with the music with that is if you're just kind of just walking around the street or whatever, there's not really any like score playing.
Yeah.
Once you start swinging, that score
the music
kicks
turns
in.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it makes it so cinematic because that's what would happen in a fucking movie.
Yeah.
But there are little things in this game that make it, and I was thinking about it, they're so simple. Like, it's so simple. Like, if you're swinging, there's like, okay, we're going to play the script. All right, if he's moving, it's just going to switch over to a different track and then come back if you stop.
Yeah.
It's like the programming is very simple, but it makes it feel very realistic.
It makes it feel really impressive, too.
Yeah. Even though, again, it's simple.
It's simple, but it is something that they put effort into it, though.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that this either sounded good or looked good or made sense, even.
Yeah. And also, the J. Jonah Jameson bits, like, every time you do a mission, any mission, even, like, the side ones, or, like, you stopped a crime and it was specific enough, he'll mention it on the radio a few hours later, I guess, in story. Like, it's really immediately after you do it.
Yeah.
And it's so simple programming-wise. Like, it's just kind of like, yeah, you do this, click, he says this in return when you start swinging again.
Right.
But something about that makes the world feel real, that like you did something and now it's on the radio.
It had an impact.
Yeah. And you can also like, there's a social media on the pause menu. You can go and people are talking about the thing that you did.
Scroll through that. Yeah.
Again, very simple programming. Like, I don't know why I'm impressed.
That's another thing
but
they
it's
actually
impressive.
took from the Amazing Spider-Man games.
Oh, really?
At least the first one. Like, there's a little social media thing. It's almost like Twitter, and you can just scroll through it.
But people are talking about the thing you just did.
Yeah.
So something about that just makes the game feel more real, immersive.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Anyway, let's move on. Spider-Man goes to a Fisk construction site that's been overtaken by the demons. He gets a call from Fisk, who agrees to give him information on the demons if he stops them and protects his people. Spider-Man stops a helicopter before attending the rally honoring Jefferson Davis. There, Peter and MJ make dinner plans to discuss their investigation, and Mayor Osborn receives a threat before the demons attack. Explosions erupt that kill many and incapacitate Peter. Davis's son, Miles Morales, saves his mother, but finds his father dead. At the funeral, Peter tries to offer a helping hand to Miles.
We're introduced to Miles Morales at this point. And
so early in the game, and I was so impressed that I was like,
yeah.
Holy shit, like we're doing 2 Spider-Man right now or whatever? Like,
for a second, my very first time playing this, I'm like, did they kill Peter and like this is a Miles game?
Yeah, and we're like 2 hours into gameplay. Like, it's really early in the game.
Yeah. This was a kind of a heavy moment too, and it comes quick.
When we get to the funeral, Jefferson Davis's funeral, it's this moment that I really appreciate the writing and the acting in the game, where, Peter just kind of goes out to like try to console Miles. Like, obviously he knows what it's like to lose parents, uncles. That kid's acting is just phenomenal right there.
Yeah. Like, he just lost his dad, and
he's kind of short and rude back to Peter, but I mean,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, that's what everyone says. It feels better, but that doesn't help me at all. Like,
right.
Like, what are you doing?
And meanwhile, like Peter, like you said, he understands this and he wants to, I don't want to say he feels responsible for Miles, but like he feels like he should like at least be there for him because he sees somebody else in a situation that he was in.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's who Peter Parker is, that he feels responsible for everybody.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of that both Peter and Spider-Man thing. Like, if he can't help, he needs to.
Yeah.
And he learns that from Aunt May, who she's got a saying in this game, which was, I forget what it is, but it's like something about...
is it like if you help one person, you help everyone?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
If you can help someone, you need to. By the way, I think I found an Easter egg here. When the helicopter falls and he webs it up and it just like barely kind of hits the ground.
Yeah.
I think that's a direct reference to the Spider-Man teaser trailer that was released and then pulled because of 9/11.
Was it because they showed the
Yep, they showed the Twin Towers, and I'll try to link it below. It's a teaser trailer for the 2002 movie. There's some bad guys in a helicopter, and they get webbed up between the two towers, and then it kind of pans out, and it's like Spider-Man next summer.
That actually probably looked pretty cool too.
Oh no, it's actually really cool. And the thing is, obviously, they cut it.
Right.
They pulled it from advertising after 9/11.
Right.
And Spider-Man is one of the 100 or so movies that were affected by 9/11.
Yes.
In terms of filming and shooting. Most movies didn't want to include images of the towers because they thought it was too soon.
Right.
And a lot of movies were pulling things that had like fictional terrorist attacks. They're like, no, this is too real now.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I get why they did it at the time, but like looking back, I wish stuff with the towers was still there.
Yeah. Well, they reshot.
So we could see them, you know?
Yeah, they reshot a lot of like the aerial stuff, like the B footage.
Yeah.
To omit them from the movie.
Something also similar happened with a game we talked about earlier, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. The final mission was supposed to take place at the top of the Twin Towers.
Oh, really?
And the game actually released, and that was the final mission. And then I don't know if there was a recall or if they just stopped printing them, and they altered the ending. So it just takes place on a generic skyscraper.
That's very interesting.
So there are still copies out there where the last fight's on the top of the World Trade Center.
That's crazy.
I know.
To that point, One World Trade Center, which people call Freedom Tower, but that's not its name, that is not in this game because likeness rights. Buildings have likeness rights just like people. And a lot of times either the licensing rights to use like a famous iconic building in a game are expensive, or they just won't let them do it. So that's why this game has the Chrysler building, it has the Empire State Building, it has the Sony building, which again, I don't think that's a big deal.
Have to pay for that
because it's Sony.
like
they own the building.
Sony produced this game, so
all the bridges, at least all the major bridges, the ones that are recognizable, George Washington Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, all those are in the game. Statue of Liberty's in the game, but there's no Freedom Tower. That one's a generic building that looks actually very similar, but it looks different enough to get away with it.
Where's the Avengers Tower at?
That's in like Upper East Side, West Side, Upper East Side.
Did that replace a building, or is that
there's
a
nothing,
new building?
There's
that they put
nothing there.
Okay.
That's that tall. There's no skyscrapers in that part of Manhattan. But in downtown is where One World Trade Center is. Okay. And that's replaced. I mean, it's in the same exact spot. I mean, relative to that Manhattan. Also, fun fact, although the Chrysler building is in this game, it's not in Miles Morales because the ownership of the Chrysler building changed hands. They didn't get the rights for it. So it's replaced by...
I didn't notice that.
It's replaced by a very generic kind of squared building that looks nothing like the Chrysler Tower. And it's kind of it kind of sucks. Because it's like a top 3 building for New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sucks that they weren't able to like get the rights to the building.
Yeah. Oh, well. Spider-Man goes after the demons, but is intercepted by Sable officers, and we meet Silver Sable. She and her team of mercenaries have been hired by Mayor Osborn to assist police in protecting the city from the demons. At Feast, Peter snoops around Martin Lee's office and finds a secret room and surmises that he is the leader of the demons. Octavius is making big strides in their robot arms, but gets unreasonably angry at any failure. He reveals that he and Norman Osborn were once partners and founded Oscorp together, but split up for ethical differences in Norman's biological research.
So here's our first twist to the game. Martin Lee, who is like this good guy. He's the leader of Feast.
He's the leader of Feast. Yeah.
Like his whole...
A charity.
His whole thing is he helps people.
Yeah.
So
and he's the supervillain, like the main antagonist thus far. There is a very Spider-Man scene where, so like, you're snooping around his office, you find a secret room, it's very protected, like it's booby trapped essentially, and then you exit through a door that obviously goes into that secret room, and Martin Lee catches you.
And he's like, Peter, what are you doing
like,
here?
Oh, did you find what you were looking for in there, you piece of shit? Like, I'm like...
He knows immediately.
He knows who he is now.
Yeah.
And he's onto him.
He doesn't know he's Spider-Man.
He doesn't know he's Spider-Man, but it's, like...
It's not too far-fetched to assume, so...
Yeah. Especially after this, they start fighting more.
Yeah. He kind of warns Peter to, like, stay away.
Yeah. A very light threat. Essentially.
Yeah, because I think Martin Lee actually does kind of care about Peter Parker a little bit.
I mean, maybe. He cares about May.
He doesn't want anything bad to happen to him, but also he's like, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, though, so stay out of the way and you'll be fine.
Right.
It's weird. It seems like a lot of Spider-Man villains are like that. They're like, I don't want to hurt you, but
Is this a scientist that turned into a tree? No, man, it's
Or is
just a tree. Yeah, I mean, all Spider-Man's villains are essentially, they fit in a box. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, and they're all very to a point sympathetic at least.
Yeah, right. Having Doc Ock and Osborn as kind of like old buddies who are now like rivals, it is an interesting kind of twist on their relationship, their origins. Again, that we know of, like Norman Osborn isn't the Green Goblin yet either. So you have both these characters, they're in front of you, and you're like, these are the two biggest Spider-Man's villains, and they're like, will they, won't they? Like, when are they going to become their villains? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was saying like Oscorp, which I'm not sure it's like this in any other.
No, I don't think it is. I
medium.
think it's Osborn's corporation.
Yeah,
And all the other.
he says that Oscorp is named after them because Octavius and Osborn, they used to call them the O's.
Yeah.
O's Corp, Oscorp. But then shouldn't it just be called Oscorp?
That doesn't sound good. Also, maybe it was, and then once Octavius left, he's like, Oscorp, Osborn, it works.
Mary Jane almost gets herself killed again by Tombstone, and she and Peter cook dinner together. They discuss Devil's Breath and decide to team up as partners in investigating the case. Spider-Man saves the Oscorp CFO in a fiery elevator shaft, who leads him to a scientist at a Halloween party at Empire State University. The scientist, along with many others, are dressed up as Spidey and his rogues gallery of villains. Martin Lee and his demons arrive, and Lee transforms into Mr. Negative. He corrupts the scientist into negativity and gets the information he needs, the name of the doctor who created Devil's Breath, Dr. Michaels, before having him kill himself.
It's a little fucked up.
This is the part where I'm like, this game's kind of dark.
Yeah. We see a few people dressed up as the villains in here.
Yeah.
I think Lizard is one of the villains we see.
Yeah, which means Lizard's pre-established.
Yeah, Kurt Connors has become the Lizard at this point.
Yeah.
I assume.
Not only that, this scientist, I forget his name, that you have to find here at the party is dressed up as the Lizard.
That's right. We see Lizard. I think we see Electro.
But it's like, were you guys peers? Do you know the guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he was the Lizard was a doctor.
He was like he's a doctor and a professor, and he was probably well known. Like, at this university. Like, that's weird, right?
Professor Connors, he's the Lizard. I'm gonna dress up as him.
Yeah,
for
but like,
Halloween.
it's funny now. Like,
Maybe it's ironic because he's in
probably
jail.
dead or in jail. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't mention the Lizard at all, other than here. So it's kind of like maybe he died. Like, who knows?
Yeah, and here you see you actually get a good look at what Martin Lee can actually do as Mr. Negative.
Yeah, he touches people and he quote unquote corrupts them, and they turn into like in negativity also, basically.
Yeah.
But later on you learn how basically he controls them. He manipulates them from within. And he does it in a very timeless fashion. Like in like a split second, he is long form convinced you to do whatever it is that he
he's
wants.
Inside of your head talking to you.
Yeah. But in no time.
Yeah.
Because later on he does a Spider-Man and they have a whole conversation and it's all within a split second.
While he's like hanging off the side of a truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, making that guy kill himself. That was a bit much.
That was fucked up, Lee.
God, Martin Lee, what are you doing? He's not original for this, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think he was very popular. He's not a big, well-known villain.
No, because Mr. Negative was a villain.
That's right. Yeah. That was a fun mission, though.
It was you were going around as Peter, right? Well, you were like dressed up.
You're Spider-Man.
You're dressed up as Spider-Man.
But a lot of people are dressed up as Spider-Man, so people just assume that like you're just dressed up.
Well, when we played, we were the bombastic bag man.
Oh, that was kind of fun.
Just in a Fantastic Four costume with a paper bag over here.
Peter helps Octavius perfect the robot arms that behave more like expanding tentacles. He learns that Otto is sick with a disease and is losing control of his body. Spider-Man runs into Miles and gives him a boxing lesson and insists he goes to Feast to volunteer. Mary Jane almost gets herself killed by Sable Guards and discovers that the demons have the Doctor and are planning to attack Grand Central Station. Spider-Man chases down Mr. Negative as they steal the Devil's Breath, which he now knows is a bioweapon accidentally created while trying to make a cure for genetic diseases.
So Mary Jane almost gets herself killed a lot.
Well, every time I say that, it's because it's a Mary Jane mission. Which, if you're not playing this game, like, you have to play as Mary Jane every now and then.
And she's always in situations where she almost gets killed.
It's so fucking annoying. They are stealth missions. where you just have to like do things to avoid people.
Because if people find you, they kill you.
Yeah. And why the fuck Mary Jane's putting herself in so much danger all the time? I don't know.
She thinks she's invincible.
I don't remember why she goes to see Tombstone. It's something about they're using Devil's Breath as like a drug or something. I don't remember.
But she was like sneaking around his like bike shop or his garage.
Yeah. They will fucking murder you. Like,
Absolutely.
Why are you there? Like, Sable Guards, maybe not. They'll arrest you.
They'll arrest you and probably harass you, maybe abuse you a little bit.
They rough you up a little bit.
I don't think they'll straight up murder you, though.
But Tombstone's going to murder you. Like, you have no business there at all.
Yeah. We get a little bit of like sympathy for Otto here with his disease.
Yeah, and you start to kind of see why he is so
desperate.
Yeah, he's desperate and he is making the easy decisions instead of
the right decisions.
The right ones. Yeah, he's taking the easy route a lot. And he's leaving Peter to clean up his messes because he's like, "Oh, we're going to do this." And Peter's like, "Wait, I have to fucking do all these puzzles in order for it to work."
Hang on, I have to do like 12 mini games first.
Yeah. Here's where you see that like his reach is going beyond what was original, which was like, we're gonna do robot arms, we're gonna fix, people who lost limbs. And I was like, well, what if the robot arm could actually extend like 10 feet? Wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
Mary Jane almost gets herself killed in Grand Central Station as the demons take her and others hostage. They are there to steal a dispersion device to spread Devil's Breath. MJ and Spider-Man work together to take down the guards and drones and save civilians. Spider-Man fights Mr. Negative on a subway train, defeats him, and stops a runaway train. Lee is arrested and sent to the Raft, a supermax prison for supervillains just adjacent to Rikers Island. Peter texts MJ that it's over, meaning the whole Martin Lee and demons situation, but MJ misunderstands that he's talking about their relationship, whatever that currently is. She says she needs some time.
That was actually a very good scene. Like when you text something and it doesn't quite like translate correctly.
Yeah, because he goes, "It's over."
He says it's over, by the way.
Yeah, by the way. And then he locks his phone. Then he swings to another building. He's like, "Wait, what the fuck did I say?" And he's like, "No."
And then like, yeah, she messages. She's like, "Oh, okay."
There is something so relatable about this scene.
And he's like, no, that's not what I meant.
How like sometimes you text in a situation that you'd rather. You shouldn't be texting in that situation. You should be like face to face.
If it's an important conversation, it should be face to face.
And there's a lot of like, oh god, like what do I say next? Like
a lot of things can be misconstrued through text messages as well.
Oh yeah.
Sable talks about this all the time. She says a lot of people misunderstand your text messages.
All the time. Mostly her. If I don't add like 10 emojis, then she thinks I'm mad. No, that's how I speak.
And that train scene was obviously a reference to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Because he has to stop it, and he's like, he does the Spider-Man 2 thing, and it doesn't work. And he's like, God, that worked last time.
How's he end up stopping it?
He he makes sure that, because he knows where he is, that above him is like vacant. So he pulls the rails up, and the train shoots out of the ground. Into
nobody, because Spider-Man doesn't do collateral damage.
Well,
not people. He doesn't do collateral casualties.
I skipped the part where that helicopter, like he tried to ground the helicopter by attaching it to like a little like mobile office cart thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And the helicopter ends up like taking it with it, and then it like destroys an entire like office building floor, which cinematically looks amazing.
Right, but also like that's a lot of
damage. Oh my god, yeah.
He doesn't do collateral lives.
Maybe he is a menace. That's all I'm saying.
He's maybe. Spider-Man the bad guy?
And J. Jonah Jameson's like complaining about him the whole time.
It's like he's destroying everything. I mean, he's right about that.
It's so entertaining though. Like again, it makes swinging from place to place entertaining when J. Jonah Jameson is just like
ranting about you,
going on a tirade. Yeah. If you don't know, Rikers Island is a real place. It's a real prison, but the Raft isn't.
That's not a real place.
And in most Marvel contexts, it's not right there. Like very visible.
Doesn't it move?
I think so. I think that's why they call it the Raft.
Yeah.
It's not because it's such an eyesore.
I think
in this game.
In the MCU, it's just in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of nowhere. So this very thing that's about to happen doesn't happen.
Yeah. This
feels a little like the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man with the disease and the dispersion device, and everyone's gonna get it.
A little bit.
They're
not gonna turn to lizards. They're just gonna die.
Yeah.
I'd prefer being a lizard, I think.
I mean,
because they're such wonderful creatures.
Maybe the lizard's right.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to be
Maybe we should all just be lizards.
You can't catch them.
They're apex predators. Everyone knows that. uh, Peter returns to the lab to find Otto has foregone the robot arms as limb replacements and added giant arms to a jumpsuit in order to not just fix the human body, but enhance it. He celebrates with Peter, who helped fix the neural link issues. Peter finds that the arms are not ready and could be affecting his brain. Otto yells back that he's succeeded, but agrees when Peter talks him down to work out the bugs. As soon as Peter leaves, however, Otto plugs the arms back into his brain.
So this is where it's like, it's starting.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a phone call where it was a voicemail while you're swinging, where he has the revelation and he's like, why are we limiting ourselves to just like limb replacement? We could be enhancing regular people.
Which sounds like there's good intentions there.
It's a very dangerous, slippery slope.
Yes, that could very quickly go into unethical human experimentation and
yeah.
a lot of big taboo subjects in the world of science.
Yeah. I sort of kind of mentioned this, but this whole time you keep waiting for him to become Doc Ock and you're like, when is it going to happen? It's so close, you know?
Yeah.
It almost feels like Hot Tub Time Machine, you know, where
you're waiting for
that guy
Chris
to lose his
Glover
arm.
to lose his arm.
Yeah. Because they go back.
You know what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen. And they're like, oh my God, this is it. And he's like fucking like juggling chainsaws for some reason.
And that's not what does it.
And then it doesn't do it. It's like, God, like, how's he going to do it? Like, when's it going to happen?
Or I guess like to a lesser extent, because this wasn't as big of a payoff, but like when you find out how Nick Fury loses his eye in Captain Marvel.
It's the same kind of idea.
That one ends up being like a little joke though, whereas I feel like there was more excitement with Hot Tub Time Machine actually.
Hot Tub Time Machine, that was exciting.
Because I'm like, how the fuck does he lose his arm?
You keep on waiting for it to happen, and then one of the characters is like, no, I'm not going to miss it. Like, hold on, it's going to happen. And this isn't a prequel by any means. Obviously, this is a standalone thing. But also, like, we already know what's going to happen. So it happening isn't the interesting part. It's how it happens that's the interesting part. And that's how you do a good prequel. Like, you know Anakin becomes Darth Vader. That's not interesting.
Some people might not. Why are you spoiling it?
Oh, wow. Again, him turning into Darth Vader isn't interesting. It's how do we get there? Yeah. That's the interesting part.
And I still think the movies could have done it a little better. But
I think it does those parts pretty well. We're not talking about.
I think it does it a little quickly.
It takes 3 movies. All right, that's a subject for another day.
Clone Wars makes it so much better.
All right, sure. I can't argue that.
You need to watch it.
I've seen most of it. I've got like 2 seasons left.
Okay.
Peter visits Aunt May, but sees on the news that the Sable truck carrying Devil's Breath has been stolen again. See, this is a bit of a video game thing where it's like, you did a thing and then it immediately gets undone. It's like, in a movie, that probably wouldn't happen.
Sometimes it does, but people don't like when that happens.
It's not good writing.
It's not good storytelling in a movie. In a video game, it works because it gives you something to do.
It gives you more stuff to do, exactly. Yuri calls them that they have bigger problems. A coordinated attack on Riker's prison has released all the inmates, and they are trying to take over the island. Spider-Man fights his way through inmates, but then he and Yuri realize that Riker's was a diversion from the raft, where a giant surge of electricity reveals Electro has broken out and is releasing all the inmates there. Spider-Man chases Electro to the roof, where he's attacked by the Scorpion, the Vulture, Rhino, and Mr. Negative. Spider-Man is stung by Scorpion and defeated. Down for the count, 4 robotic tentacles appear, and Doc Ock issues Spider-Man a final warning to stay out of their way. The Sinister Six is formed. While Spider-Man is unconscious, Doc Ock descends onto Times Square and releases Devil's Breath.
So this is where it happens.
Right. Electro has that, you see, he's got the star on his face as a scar.
Yeah, that was a really cool design, actually.
I like his design. He's like bald. You could tell he's been in plenty of accidents with electricity.
And when he powers up, you see the electricity like on his face.
On the scars, yeah.
Yeah, like it like covers it up almost.
That's pretty cool.
Electro looks really cool in this game, actually.
I'm going to go ahead and say I love all of these villains' designs. To the point where I'm like, these might be some of my favorite designs for these villains ever. Like, out of all Spider-Man things.
They have that, like, practical, grounded look to them, but they're also still, like, kind of fantastical. Like, Rhino, he's huge in a way no human can be. But his suit doesn't look like a stupid little like onesie. It looks like
Yeah.
it's like grafted onto his body.
It is, and it's still
Like it enhances
kind
him.
of an exosuit in a little bit.
Yeah, which is
It's
what Amazing
mostly-
Spider-Man 2 was trying to go for, but they went
Was
too
it?
far towards like mech suit.
Yeah. And we did see because there was like a bodybuilder at the party, and he's dressed up as Rhino, and he's wearing the onesie.
He's
and he
wearing
looks-
the stupid onesie.
Yeah, and he looks ridiculous. And then this Rhino looks awesome. So Electro looks really cool, and it's like, you know, the Jamie Foxx No Way Home one is great, but that's also very specific to that movie.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even Vulture. Vulture has never been cool until... Because he's always like an old man. That's his bit.
Homecoming made him pretty cool.
Until Homecoming.
Yeah.
But this...
Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Sable's
Michael
favorite.
Keaton, Sable's favorite. But this took the more comic book version and then somehow made it cool. You know, it wasn't a huge reinvention of the character.
No, but
like
but it was a
Homecoming.
cool looking costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still an old guy. He's very smart. He speaks more eloquently than everybody else, especially because they pair him up with fucking Electro,
They pair
who's
him
got
with
like
Electro,
a Jersey accent.
Yeah, and he calls him V. He's like, all right, V, I gotcha.
And he's got like, it's like a mechanical flying suit. He's got like a breather apparatus that looks like a beak, but it still kind of looks like
Yeah, it's...
like an oxygen mask that
And
you would
this
use
was,
if you're flying high altitude.
This came out around the same time as Homecoming or right before
A
Homecoming?
year after.
A year after Homecoming.
Homecoming's 2017.
Okay, but this was already in development.
Yeah.
And this probably would have like started development around the time as Amazing Spider-Man 2, actually.
Maybe.
When they were still trying to do an Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3.
So,
And I don't know if they were trying to like pull stuff from movies. I mean, I'm sure they were like for inspiration and stuff, but I don't think it was trying to tie into any movies. I think this was always going to be its own thing.
yeah. And then the Scorpion looks good too. I like it.
Scorpion is cool.
Yeah.
I like Scorpion a lot.
You're a Scorpion stan. First
I
of
like
all.
Scorpion a lot.
But I think this game does his look very well.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it later, but like his poison too.
He has like different kinds of poison.
Yeah.
Because right now it just knocks him out.
Yeah.
But later on he gets stung and he goes in a trip.
Yeah, and then like apparently the trip will like eventually stop his heart or something. Like he'll die if he doesn't get help.
Right. Again, something about this game, it's like if you know Spider-Man, you know his rogues, you know all this stuff, and we mentioned it a bunch of times. But like, I didn't expect it to go this hard.
They pulled like all the classics out.
Yeah, like 3/4 into the game, you're fighting the Sinister Six. That's something that I'd be like, all right, maybe it's the finale, maybe it's for a sequel, maybe they're going to build up to it after like 3 games or something. No, it's just like, boom, here it is.
And it works.
It's awesome. It's fucking awesome.
And a lot of the reason why it works is because he already has an established history
Yeah.
with these characters. We don't have
With at
to,
least 4 of them. Yeah.
we don't have to spend too much time on them. And we actually do learn a bit about them later on in a mission where you're sneaking around. You can like listen to like audio recordings where you find out that
Oh, yeah.
like how Doc Ock got this team together
Yeah.
because he's helping them with their own problems.
Right. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
All around. Spider-Man regains consciousness 24 hours later to a New York City that is completely infected with Devil's Breath. The disease is running rampant. Citizens are masked, coughing, and weak. Signs say to stay home. The island of Manhattan is completely quarantined, and Sable International is implementing martial law. Inmates from both the Raft and Rikers prison are scattered throughout the city. Spider-Man has been named responsible for the attack by Mayor Osborn and is wanted by both police and Sable. This is all too real, by the way.
This was, keep in mind, this came out in 2018,
Yeah.
where like situations like this we didn't think would happen.
And then it happened.
And then it happened. And then turns out people react really fucking like poorly to this shit.
Oh, there's something later in the game that I'm like,
They wouldn't do
this
that.
wouldn't happen. And we know that firsthand that it wouldn't
well, we know it
happen.
now.
Right. But at the time, you expect if this huge disease is running rampant through a city and they come up with
you
a
want-
cure, people would just be like, yes, give me the cure. No. We know now. That wouldn't happen. We'll get to it, though. We'll get to it. I love that this does feel like rock bottom right here, this part of the game.
This is like borderline post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. And we should mention the map completely changes, which is kind of common in games now, I feel like.
It's a thing done
It's
a
a
lot
trope.
more often now.
It's a Zelda thing. Link to the Past.
Link to the Past did it. I think like Final Fantasy VI did it too.
Where the whole map is just kind of like...
Like something happens and the whole map
Rethemed,
changes.
yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, in A Link to the Past, you can freely switch between them.
Yeah.
It's like the dark world and then like the regular world. I think in Final Fantasy VI, like something like cataclysmic happens and it literally like changes the world.
Oh, okay. Well, it's magic, so.
Yeah. Ocarina of Time does this too with the time travel.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's similar to A Link in the Past.
You go like 7 years into the future and everything's like
fucked.
Everything's fucked. Like the entire town is dead. There's zombies walking around. Like it's bad.
Everyone's like
the bad guy won, basically.
Yeah, everyone's hunkered down.
Yeah. God, that game's so good. I need to replay it.
I should mention too, I thought this was really funny because my wife's name is Sable and it's not a common name. When we met, she was like, "Oh, like I'm a comic book character, like I'm a Spider-Man sort of villain." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about it?" She's like, "Nope. That's all I know."
All I know is the name Silver
Sable. And in this game, she's like she plays a big role.
She needs to play this game. At least watch it.
That's what I said. We streamed like 4 or 5 straight weeks playing this game. And she could have been there for any of that. And there was, I think, 2 times you weren't there. And I'm like, come in and just sit in Birdo's seat. She's like, nah. And just like watch me play and we can talk about it. And
you can have commentary on it.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. And she didn't want to do it. So
she's like, that's nerd shit. That's not Spyro.
Yeah. Spider-Man tries to save Aunt May, Miles, and MJ from a burning building. But it's MJ that saves the day. She apologizes for wanting to be a hero and not the damsel in distress, and Spidey apologizes for making her feel helpless. Miles jumps in to ruin the moment. He was such a cockblock. The 3 of them form a plan. MJ will look for an anti-serum, Miles will watch Feast, and Spider-Man needs to clean up the entire city of inmates, aggressive Sable agents, and his 6 worst supervillains ever. Spider-Man finds Doc Ock's secret hideout, but falls into a trap. He's taken by Vulture and must fight both him and Electro simultaneously. In a dangerous fight, Spider-Man defeats them both. This is where you were talking about that he finds his hideout and he learned. That's where you listen to the recordings with all the...
Yeah, and you find out that like Doc Ock was helping Electro become... Electro wants to become pure energy like he always does.
Yeah.
That's his thing. He was helping Vulture. I guess Vulture has some sort of disease that he was helping him out with.
A lot of them are like their classic backstories.
Yeah, Scorpion, he wanted to get him out of the suit.
Is he in this?
He's like stuck in it. He's
really?
Like,
I thought no, it's Rhino that's stuck in a suit.
Rhino's stuck in a suit too.
They're both stuck in their suits?
Yeah.
I don't really know that much about Scorpion, I'll be honest.
Well, one of the backstories of Scorpion is that like it was some sort of experiment that J. Jonah Jameson helped fund.
Yeah. But weren't they like trying to make like an anti-Spider-Man and he got bit by a scorpion? It was something like that,
yeah. I don't know if he got bit by a scorpion. He doesn't have like powers. Most of his stuff's like suits.
Oh, yeah.
But he like...
I mean, Spider-Man doesn't have like web powers. You know what I mean? Like he created that.
Right. But like Scorpion has like that... It's like a robotic suit.
McDonald Gargan. He was a private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson to learn how Peter Parker took pictures of Spider-Man. In the following issue, Jameson decided to turn Gargan into a deadly adversary for Spider-Man through a barely tested procedure, which left Gargan with an unremovable Scorpion-themed armor and the predatory instincts of the arachnid. Yeah, so he has some Scorpion powers.
I guess like he's enhanced a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, in this game, Doc Ock promises to clean off like his criminal record and pay off all of his financial debt. So basically, make him like a free man. Superhuman
strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, and durability. And can also scale walls. He also punches holes in walls as a way to climb.
So he just uses strength to climb, basically.
Yeah, he's also exceptionally strong grip. The tail in the past has been equipped with projectile weapons, a spike at its tip, which can squirt an acidic spray, and a low-density plasma energy projector. Whoever wrote this is a huge nerd. This is very specific shit. This is like Star Wars, like inside every ship detail
like
kind of thing.
Like the cross-section books.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
And in the game, Rhino is stuck in a suit, and Doc Ock promises to help him out of the suit and basically not be the Rhino anymore. Because I guess the Rhino doesn't like being the Rhino.
I don't remember what the burning building, where did that come from? What was the source of that fire?
I think that was Feast was on fire.
It wasn't. It was like an apartment building.
Really?
Yeah.
Or it could be the inmates that cause it. It could be literally anything.
Yeah, there's inmates from all over the place.
There's a lot of shit going on at this point.
Every rooftop has a bunch of people with rocket launchers I can see from a mile away. It don't make any sense. It's so dangerous. You're constantly fighting during this part, by the way. Like, constantly.
There's armed escaped convicts from Rikers. There's a Sinister Six, Escape from the Raft, and there's Sable
still,
agents, basically like locking the city down with.
I mean, the demons still have like their.
And the demons are still around.
They're still around, and like regular like thugs are still around too.
Yeah, I wish Kingpin was back.
yeah.
At least it was organized. Bring back the organization and organized crime, at least. Like, come on.
Spider-Man goes after Scorpion, but is stung again. He hallucinates a falling New York City, giant scorpion tails attacking, and somehow creates a cure. Peter visits Aunt May, who is sicker than most. They are short on antibiotics, and Miles went to steal some from Sable. He almost gets killed by Rhino, but escapes and has to fight a few inmates with the skills Spider-Man taught him. Spider-Man arrives to fight both Rhino and Scorpion. He narrowly defeats both. So I didn't mention, but you do Miles missions too. And they're both sneaking around. But his are, he can like hack into things. With, like,
he can hack
phone.
into things and like cause distractions.
Yeah.
Which MJ eventually gets that ability when Spider-Man gives her like a little gadget to use. Because he's like, hey, if you're going to be sneaking around, at least, be careful.
The part though, speaking of things that are like copied from Arkham, which a lot of this game is sneaking around. The whole, when you go into like a base or a hideout and you have to start like taking them out slowly while the others aren't looking, you can use distraction tactics. That's all from Arkham.
And then like it'll eventually become like a brawl because you can only stealth take out so many enemies.
Yeah, and that's more of a Spider-Man thing here where you can kind of basically ignore the stealth part if you want. It's not important.
You can just go in and start beating the shit out of everybody.
You can skip it. Like in Arkham, absolutely not. Like you have to do it the way that the game wants you to do it.
Yeah, they're very strict with it.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But this scene where the floor is lava basically like in the sky.
Oh, there's like acid like flooding the city.
Yeah, because he's tripping. That's in Arkham. Yeah. Because Arkham Knight has the same bit where like a disease comes out into the city and it's like a fog. And so Batman has to stay above the fog. And because he can't fly, he traverses by gliding
and ziplining.
And then ziplining back up to a building.
Or grappling.
Yeah, grappling up to a building. So you have to glide to a vantage point, then like go up to get altitude, and then you can glide again.
Yeah, and then you got to like dive and then
get
glide
speed
to like...
and
The physics for that are a little questionable, but
it is it's similar to this where it's kind of fun. Like it's fun traversing the city.
Yeah.
In the Arkham games.
I personally enjoy swinging more than gliding, but
in Arkham Knight you can also choose. You can call a Batmobile and just drive, which is also fun.
But that's fun for a little bit. There's too much Batmobile in that game.
You think?
There's a very, very large chunk of the game where you have to be in the Batmobile.
How is that different from doing MJ and Miles missions?
Because there's only like four of those.
And a lot of those tank missions are fun. I think they're fun. Okay.
I think some of them are fun.
We should do at least 2 Arkham games when we get to Batman. So the parts where you have to stay above like the fog or else you die. And then also like trippy sequences. That happens on Arkham all the time,
It's very reminiscent of the Scarecrow sequences. When he...
Exactly.
Instead of getting hit with scorpion poison, though, you're hit with, like, fear gas.
Yeah. But not reminiscent. Completely stolen. Like...
true. He even has, like the giant version of Scorpion. You have the giant version of Scarecrow.
Yeah, and they use it to, like, get a little bit of exposition out. Like, you have to chase the characters, and you get into weird fights.
Here's the thing. It works perfectly for both games, though.
Yeah, I mean...
And both characters.
All I'm saying is it's stolen. I'm not saying it's bad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying it's fine. Put it in every fucking game. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, if it's something good, use it, you know?
I'm just saying they took it from Arkham.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure there was a game that had jumping before Mario perfected it.
Oh, okay. Mary Jane sneaks into Osborn's penthouse, where she investigates the home she and Peter spent time in with Harry as children. She is suspicious of Harry's time in Europe and discovers a secret room, despite almost getting caught and killed as usual. She learned... This was the hardest one, by the way.
Oh, we spent quite a bit of time on this.
Yeah. She learns that Harry never went to Europe to study, but that he is terminally ill, and Norman's been desperately trying to find the cure his whole life. She finds footage of the incident that created Mr. Negative, when Martin Lee was just a child volunteering for experimental treatment for a disease from Osborn and Octavius. The incident killed both Lee's parents. She also releases a spider, like the one likely responsible for Spider-Man. Sable and her guards catch Mary Jane and corner her to the penthouse balcony where she jumps and hopes Spider-Man will catch her. He does, thank God.
He even tells her to wait and not jump yet.
Yeah, like, I'm not there yet. And she's like, well, you're out of time. Jumps off the building. Like, he can't get there any faster. He's not Superman.
He's
like,
already going as fast as he can.
Oh, that stressed me out. I'm like, God, you've been getting in the way too much.
That footage of Martin Lee was
It was dark.
it's fucked up.
Yeah. I didn't realize this, I think, while we were playing the game, but I noticed when I was watching it back, Octavius is there. And I think it's implied that that's the incident that led to their breakup.
Oh, I picked that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he mentioned that like Norman was doing stuff that Octavius thought was unethical. And he kind of left it at that when he was talking to Peter.
And in the footage, he's like, they start looking at Norman like, are you sure we should be doing this right now? And Norman's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, everything's fine.
Meanwhile, like, Norman, like, he also has good intentions, but he's also a little biased and a little selfish because similar to what Octavius is doing right now.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
like,
they're like mirrors of each other.
What's the difference?
Right.
He has a biased goal, and he's desperate to find cures to, like, different genetic diseases to cure Harry.
Norman just did it first.
Yeah. But they're the same.
Yeah,
like,
Octavius is following the exact same path, which is...
And that's why they hate each other,
it's kind of poetic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention Harry's mom is already dead from the same disease.
Norman is just so desperate to save his son that he's willing to... I don't think he meant for anything bad to happen to Lee.
No.
But he rushed something that shouldn't have been rushed. He took the easy way, and these were the consequences.
Yeah. Mr. Negative takes Norman hostage. Sable and Spider-Man join forces to save him. Osborn begs Lee for forgiveness for the accident. Spider-Man stops Lee from killing Osborn, and they have a final confrontation. Lee unleashes a huge demon from within, but Spider-Man defeats him and takes the anti-serum. Octavius shows up and fights him for it. Doc Ock wins, takes the serum, and kidnaps Osborn, who is astonished to see his old friend turn into a supervillain. You gotta love that Spider-Man will always try to reason with his bad guys and make them see, like, the bad that they've caused, Yeah. But, like, they're murderers. But he still doesn't give up on them.
He always, like, believes that there's still some good in there that can come back.
And, like, maybe if anything, he can convince them that you did the wrong thing. Like, you're wrong.
But you can start doing the right thing.
But you can start doing the right thing. And it doesn't completely absolve you, but at least you're on the right path.
Right. Because he doesn't want to kill anybody.
It's just so, Spider-Man's just so great, is all I'm saying.
He's very earnest.
Because I don't think that I would do that. I think if it was my job to take care of, like, a murderer, I might not have any compassion for them.
You might kill him.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, no, this guy deserves we throw the book at him. Like, fuck it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do what it takes. We're going to arrest him, and he's done. I don't have to talk to him. I don't care about them. I don't feel any sympathy. But
Spider-Man's not
like that. No, he's so compassionate. And he has seen Martin Lee kill people. And he's still like...
But he's still like, I know you're a good guy. Like, you made Feast. Like, a bad guy doesn't do that.
He's like, can you just stop and, like, realize what you're doing is wrong? Like, we can make this better together, And obviously he does that with Octavius a little later on, too.
Mm-hmm.
But also Norman's responsible for all this, if you think about it.
All of this happening, it does all come back to indirectly, but yes, it is his fault.
Yeah. I love that he gets kidnapped by one person to just get kidnapped again from somebody else.
Right.
Sable and Dr. Michaels take Spider-Man to Feast to treat him. Oh, yeah, he's, like, badly injured.
Oh, he's, like, dying.
Yeah, he got beat the fuck up by Osborn. Or not Osborn, Octavius. MJ takes Peter to Aunt May, who is in critical condition and could go at any minute. Still severely injured, Spider-Man wants to defeat Doc Ock, and Mary Jane suggests, tongue-in-cheek, that he needs Peter Parker's help, who helped design the arms and could find a weakness. The spider that scared MJ back at Osborn's lab crawls off of her and finds its way to Miles and bites him. Spin-off.
Sequel bait.
That was a bit of a stretch.
That it stayed on her that long?
You see her, like, kind of, like, clean herself off of, like, the spider. And then, like, I guess it was still on her, and it stayed on her while she got, like, on the subway.
Maybe it's an intelligent spider that knows it's supposed to bite Miles.
Yeah. This is, like, the kind of that rock bottom moment, right? He's, like, about to die and shit.
It can't get any worse than this.
Yeah. Spider-Man returns to Otto's lab and designs himself a new armor to fight Doc Ock, similar to his arms. You gotta kind of wave this off that he just built this armor, like mechanical armor, in minutes, hours.
It's probably hours.
like, how much time does he have to spend on this? You know what I mean?
It was probably hours, realistically.
Atop Oscorp Tower, Doc Ock tries to get Norman to admit he sabotaged Otto's career, but he refuses. Doc Ock throws him off the tower. Spider-Man saves him and confronts Doc Ock. They have a thrilling fight in the rain, and Doc Ock reveals he knows Peter's identity. He says he can't let him win because this means too much to him. Spider-Man yells that it means more to him and knocks him off the roof. They fight on the side of the building. Doc Ock stabs him and says he needs to learn to make the hardest decisions, to which Spider-Man agrees and rips a chip off his mentor's neck. He falls down, defeated, and accuses Peter of turning on him, and begs for Peter's help to perfect the arms, going as far as threatening to reveal Spider-Man's identity. Peter refuses and collects the antiserum.
Here's the thing. This whole sequence is actually, like, from the moment that Peter finds out that Doc Ock knew he was Peter the whole time, it's kind of, like, heartbreaking.
This is a movie, this cutscene. Yeah. It's incredible. And cutscenes have such a bad reputation in games of being like, whatever, it's just like story filler, like it's boring, like just skip it, whatever. This is a game where the cutscenes hit and you want to put down the controller and just kind of be in it for a minute because it's so good.
Yeah. And like the hurt in like Peter's voice when he finds out that like he already knew he was Peter. And he's like, and you still did all this?
Yeah.
It's so good.
And there's this whole thing about like, you know, Doc Ock is saying like, you are still kind of a child in that you aren't ready to make the tough decisions. Like, I'm making a tough decision and doing all this bad stuff for the greater good. He believes he's doing this for the greater good, right?
Yeah.
It is very selfish, but like he's still, you know, he thinks he's doing the right thing. And Peter's having this moment where he's sort of kind of growing up in a way because he's like, no, like I'm making the hard decision right now.
Yeah.
Because he truly cares for Otto. He's his mentor. He's the person he looks up to the most. Yeah. Again, so many times he's been told, you can get any other job. And he's like, this is where I need to be. This is where my heart is, you know, working with Otto. And yeah.
He wanted to be him.
He has to like punch you as hard as he can. Like he doesn't want to do that. And he doesn't want to take this away from you. He doesn't want to hurt you. He doesn't want to betray you, even though you're accusing him of doing so. And put against a super hard situation, Otto threatens to reveal Spider-Man's identity.
And that's kind of what solidifies Peter being like, I'm not helping you.
Well,
because it kind of seemed like he was like thinking about it.
Most people would be like, well, shit, that's a bargaining chip. And Peter's like, you do what you think is best. Yeah. Because his mind's made up. He's not helping you.
He's like, I'm doing what I think is best.
Yeah. He's basically
and
like,
he even says,
if you reveal my
even
thing,
if it hurts like hell.
Yeah. He's like, if you reveal my identity, then so be it. But I'm going to do what's right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
And the voice acting is incredible.
This is very good acting.
It's like, they sell it.
Also, this level is not that hard. It's not about the fight. Like,
no, it's actually a pretty easy boss fight.
Yeah, there's so many other boss fights that are harder.
It's about the narrative and like the conclusion of all that. Like,
it's about the story more than anything.
And I'm kind of glad the boss fight wasn't super hard because I always hate it when you get to like a conclusive battle or something in a game and it's supposed to be like epic and it just ends up being frustrating.
Yeah,
because it takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, especially if you have to do it 10 times.
Yep.
Then it's kind of like
loses its.
Yeah, it should be a one and done, and I think that's why it's a little easier.
Yeah, I think like just cinematically, that's the better way to do it.
Yeah,
and you can make the argument that video games aren't cinema, but they are art. They are art, and you can make that art however you want to. So
absolutely, very well said. Back at Feast, Aunt May is moments from death. Dr. Michael says he needs a few hours to mass produce the antiserum in order to cure everyone. If they were to use the single dose they currently have to cure May, they wouldn't have enough to cure anyone else. He leaves Spider-Man to decide between saving his Aunt May or the rest of New York City. Aunt May asks Spider-Man to take off his mask because she knows Peter is underneath it. May reassures him that he knows what he needs to do. He contemplates putting the cure in her IV, but ultimately lets Aunt May die in the service of others. May is dead, but the city is cured. She is buried next to Uncle Ben.
This part hurts.
This is
because he
stab in the heart.
He literally had the ability to save her right there, but it would have meant everybody else would die.
Well, it's the ultimate Spider-Man dilemma.
Yep.
Do you service Spider-Man or Peter Parker? Mm-hmm. You cannot do both.
No.
Which is it? And he's given this opportunity to save his Aunt May, take the selfish route.
Right.
But then maybe they can't save hundreds or thousands of people.
That's the only sample of the anti-serum.
Yeah.
So they need to reproduce it. And if he uses it all, obviously they can't.
And this goes all the way to the beginning of the movie. And I knew I was going to do this. The beginning of the game.
The beginning of the movie.
Where at the very first cutscene, he has to choose between paying rent or fucking being Spider-Man and like saving
down
people.
Fisk.
And what does he choose? To be Spider-Man.
Yeah, and he got evicted for it.
Yeah, but that's the price he's willing to pay as Peter Parker. Yeah. He will always do the right thing.
And he never complains about it.
No, he's going to take the punches. He's going to take the sacrifice.
Yep.
And here he is having to make an ultimate sacrifice. His Aunt May has to die in order for him to do the right thing. And Aunt May told him to do it.
She's like, you know what you have to do.
And she's smart. She's known this whole time that you were Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. You know, and he tries to play dumb. He's like, "Oh,
what are you talking about?"
I'm sure. Oh, hi, ma'am. I'm sure you're gonna be fine. And she's like,
"Take the mask off,
you dumb fuck. I'm dying here.
I want to see my nephew before I die."
This is heartbreaking. It also makes for a great story.
It really does. It's one of those things where like there's consequences for everything that happens, good and bad.
Yeah. Peter and MJ meet up for dinner. He's homeless for a week, so MJ offers for him to stay with her only if he wants to. And he says only if she wants to. She says she's never stopped wanting to, and they kiss.
Thank God it's not will they, won't they anymore.
I like the language that they use.
It feels very real.
It feels real. Yeah. It feels very real.
Like it's awkward in a realistic way.
Yeah.
Not a Tobey Maguire way.
Right.
Oh, boy.
In the first of two post-credit scenes, Miles helps Peter move into his new apartment and asks if he could tell him a secret. He tells him weird things are happening to his body, and Peter gets awkwardly confused. Miles jumps on the ceiling and sticks, and Peter reciprocates, revealing they're both Spider-Man. In the second, Norman enters another secret room in his penthouse and reveals Harry has been in an incubator tube this whole time, suspended in a green liquid. Norman vows to find a cure to save him, and holds up his hand to the glass where a black tendril holds back.
Venom?
Ooh.
Probably.
It's a little bit confusing what's going on here. This is super interesting because this game has established we're going to like pay the necessary homages to the classic versions of the characters, but we could do some reinventions also.
Right. I could see Norman like finding the symbiote, realizing that like when it bonds with someone, it kind of has healing properties, and him being desperate enough to use it on his son.
But is he sick with the symbiote? Is that what's making him sick?
Well, it's
a genetic disease, but he seems to have the symbiote in there with him.
I don't know. That might be purposeful, though.
You think? Because here's another thing.
The symbiote might be the treatment.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You think like he found the symbiote and is using that to treat Harry to keep him alive?
And I'm thinking in the sequel, something's going to go wrong. Obviously.
So what does that mean for the characters of Green Goblin and Venom? Like the two
Goblin Norman can still become Green Goblin.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, the two main Spider-Man villains that have been omitted from this are Green Goblin and the Venom.
Yeah.
Right? And we know in the sequel, first of all, sequel bait, Green Goblin, he's in a super green liquid or whatever, and then we see the tendril. And then also there's a trailer now.
Have you seen the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw Venom.
I saw Venom.
Okay, yeah.
So
we know Venom's in the sequel.
It's a teaser. Like, you see Venom for a second.
Yeah.
So, who's who, is what I'm saying. You know, like, is Venom going to be Eddie Brock? Is it going to be another character? Is Harry going to be Venom? Is Harry going to be Green Goblin? Is Norman going to be Green Goblin?
I'm interested to find out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a toss-up. Unlike this one where the whole time we're like, oh my God, he's working for Doc Ock. He's working for Doc Ock. When does he become Doc Ock? It's going to happen.
Right.
Like, when's it going to happen?
Doc Ock's like kind of a good guy up until a certain point.
In this situation, we're like, no, anybody could be anybody.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know who's Green Goblin. We don't know who's Venom. And that is, I think, very intriguing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm excited that it's not going to be like the usual, you know how every universe like has like, oh, this character will always be this person. This character will always be. When they change it up, I like that. Yeah.
And I mean, there hasn't been any other big changes. Like I said, there are interesting wrinkles in some of these characters, but they're still the same characters. MJ's MJ. And
so if Harry does end up being Venom,
Rhino.
that's something that I'm totally on board with.
I mean,
what the fuck else is Harry Osborn doing?
I mean, what if Harry's Green Goblin? I don't know. Like,
they could do that too, but
he's the one more likely to become Green Goblin because he's having all these experimental treatments done on him.
And you think like it alters his mind or something. But then we have another character with an altered mind. Whereas I feel like Norman might actually have some motivation to become Green Goblin. He's already kind of a fucked up guy, you know?
We also haven't been mentioning that, like, you sort of get to know Harry through those research
things. And he's like,
missions.
he's a really good kid.
But they're just recordings that Harry did before he left.
Yeah, he left them specifically for Peter.
Right.
Because they're best friends.
It was very surprising because this whole time you're told Peter's in Europe or Harry's in Europe. And then you find out like, oh no, Harry's in Europe because of he's sick and treatment or whatever. And at the very end, it's like Harry's
not in Europe.
He's here. He was literally here the whole time.
It was all covered. And that was done really well,
and
too.
He's like in suspended animation.
Yeah.
Like,
when it's revealed, because even when it's revealed that he's sick, it makes you think he went to Europe to get some experimental treatment. He's with like some doctors in Europe.
Exactly, yeah.
No, he's
in the closet.
He's fucked.
Whole time. And what's funny too is like you spend a whole mission as MJ like snooping around that entire penthouse, and there's so many little details. Like she looks at all the picture frames and remembers, you know, being
like
with
all
Harry,
their memories together and stuff. Yeah,
and then but you didn't find the closet with Harry in it.
And you see like the diary entry that Harry wrote. He even said in there like, "Hey guys, you know, if you're reading this, then something bad probably happened," because you weren't supposed to find that diary entry, obviously.
Well, I think Harry thought he was going to Europe too. Because you think he wrote that in the diary.
The way he wrote it, though, was like, oh, I'm going to Europe. Ha.
Yeah. So like maybe he was in on it.
Maybe he was in on it. He was like,
they're going to put me
Europe. I'm going to Europe.
They're going to put me to sleep for 2 years. Or a summer or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it was supposed to be that long. Poor Harry, because he seemed like such a good guy.
Yeah.
Because in all the side missions, you're doing stuff that's like, he's like, yeah, Oscorp stuff like, is kind of bad for the environment. Like, my mom did some research that might actually help out with it, and he wants to continue that.
Because it seems like Harry and his mom are more environmentalists.
Yes. Whereas Norman's more
well, here's the thing.
Big picture science guy.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You don't know if maybe Norman in his youth was also the same.
He could have been, and he changed.
And then his wife died. And so now he's more of a capitalist, you know.
Running for mayor,
get as much power and money with the end game of curing Harry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's like he has good intentions, but the fact that he's going to any length for it is
right.
the problem.
To him is like the ends justify the means.
Right. And we all know that never works out.
I'm excited for the sequel.
Well, you need to play the DLC and the spin-off first.
Yeah, you're right. Are they going to release that on PS5 exclusive? Because that'd be bad.
Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
Probably.
Fuck.
It'll be, by the time it comes out, it'll be like 3 years since the console came out. If they made it multi-platform, they'd just be gimping the game.
Like, you just make a less graphically intensive one.
But then you got to change like the game mechanics to go with it too.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
Spider-Man, the remaster one's exactly the same.
It's because it's a remaster. That's all it is.
Yeah, you just do that.
They're not going to remaster the game for a sequel. They're going to build a whole new game. Specifically for the new console. It's the next generation. It's already been for a year.
Oh, God. We're fucked. When we're going to get a PS5.
The only thing is, and this has never happened before, is we have the shortage of consoles. And a lot of it's because of the pandemic. And crypto.
Yeah, no, it's crypto's fault.
And NFTs.
Yeah. Anyway.
The world wasn't like this every other console generation. I will eventually get a PS5, though, specifically for Spider-Man 2 and the remake of Knights of the Old Republic.
The thing is, I only have a PS4 for Spider-Man. That's why I got this. And I got it used specifically because I couldn't justify
I'll probably
buying
get a
an entire
PS5 before
console.
you do. Let's be realistic.
You can bring it over and play Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I would play it first.
God damn it. All right, the analysis of this game. Incredible. Like, amazing all around. It's hard to find criticisms, really. Like, this is a really good game.
Yes,
if you had
very
name
polished.
If you had a nitpick.
The stealth missions, they're a little annoying. That's about it, though.
The MJ missions.
The MJ missions.
Because I like stealth with Spider-Man. All the little gadgets, all the takedowns.
Yeah, like the MJ, the missions where you're playing as a regular person, I get why they're there, like narrative-wise. But they probably could have been cutscenes.
Okay.
But, I mean, even then, though, like,
I mean, they still beef up the story a little bit, you know?
Because you can, like, pick up objects and get some lore for them, and I'm a sucker for that shit.
The first time I played it in the Grand Central Station, I did all of the things.
Yeah, that's how I am when I play, too. I will go to every single interactable object and make sure I don't miss anything.
I played with that invisible field thing for a while.
That thing is cool.
But we talked a lot about, obviously, the story and how kind of like overall cinematic the game is. That's why we're treating it like a movie in a lot of ways. We also mentioned like the swinging mechanic. I feel like they took all of those games, you know, all the games we talked about in the background section, and just said like, what's the best thing out of all of these? Like, how do we perfect the swinging mechanic? Because all the other games tweaked with it and maybe added something that was unpopular. You mentioned like Amazing Spider-Man was like, it was the weird camera, and like even Spider-Man 2 is like you have to like go right and then left and then right and then left,
which was probably the most realistic swinging out of all of them.
But is that necessary in the game?
It's not necessary.
You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember the game Skate?
Yeah,
where
you had to use the stick to
at the time the skateboard video game market was completely owned by Tony Hawk.
Yes.
And Tony Hawk treats, like, mechanic-wise, it's kind of like a car. Like, it drives itself, and you can speed up, slow down, turn, do tricks.
Press this button for this trick, this button for this trick. Yeah.
Right. Whereas Skate was like, left joystick is your left foot, right joystick is your right foot. Fucking figure it out.
Which was, it was good for certain things. I will say, a lot of people like the Skate series, and I do too. I had more fun with the Tony Hawk games, I think.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like there is a balance of like
realism
interactivity and realism, or at what point does it become work?
Yeah.
You know, and like not fun. But this pulls from all those games, including like zipping, which was a thing from way back in those early games.
The one from 2000 had web zipping.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like you turn a direction, you can zip a little bit, and you can kind of keep zipping. I was watching someone play this game, and I'm like, they're doing it wrong. Because instead of swinging, they were zipping over all the buildings. And I was like, first of all, physically, that doesn't make sense. But, like, you're Spider-Man. Like, swing through the buildings. That's the fun part.
Probably just trying to go as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Hate it. But then the game is broken for me.
Yeah, I like the immersion aspect of it. Like, I want to feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which the Arkham games made you feel like Batman. This game really does make you feel like Spider-Man.
Well, that's the thing is, like, you can't blame these games for being so popular, not just this one, all the Spider-Man games, because out of all superheroes, who would you most rather be, like, vicariously?
Spider-Man just has, like, one of the more fun skill sets to play around with.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, would you play a Cyclops game? Absolutely not.
No,
that sounds horrible.
Boring. Cyclops is also a boring character. Fuck Scott Summers.
All right, maybe it was a bad example. I'm just saying, like, do you know what I mean? Like, Spider-Man, like, if you ask people, like, oh, like, pick a superpower, they'd be like, oh, like, flight. But, like, swinging is, like, probably a close second.
It's not a power, though, technically. He wouldn't be able to do it if he wasn't super strong, but...
No, obviously. But you know what I'm saying? That it's the Spider-Man experience.
Yeah. Like, if you were to pick, like, a superhero skill set, Spider-Man is definitely up there. It might be number one for me, actually.
Nobody wants to be Batman. Batman's a tortured individual. Like, I mean, the Arkham games are a lot of fun, but I'm just saying, like...
You don't want to literally be Batman.
Just because Batman's my favorite character doesn't mean I want to be
Spider-Man's
him.
A pretty tortured guy, too.
I mean, yeah, in this game, definitely. But, like, he's fun. And you want to be Spider-Man when you watch a Spider-Man thing or when you play this game, you know? Absolutely. And
it's one of those things where, like, even, like, the hype around No Way Home, when that came out, I'm like, I just want to, like, play a Spider-Man game right now.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about the music?
Oh, the score for this game is... incredible.
It's amazing. It has the right to contend with all the Spider-Man movie scores.
Yes, and I was saying before we started the stream, you and I were just talking, I was saying, I think I like the main theme for this game better than the MCU Spider-Man theme, and I love the MCU Spider-Man theme. The one by, was it Michael?
Giacchino, yeah.
Yeah.
I might agree with you. It's really good.
And this one was by the guy that did Daredevil. What was his name?
I don't know.
I just said it. John Pisano? He also did the score for the Daredevil Netflix show. And he did the score for The Defenders, too, which had a good score. It just wasn't as great of a show. But yeah,
I don't remember the score for that at all.
His theme for this game is just, it's very good. It reminds me a lot of the James Horner score from Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. Like, it seems like there was some inspiration there from it. And that James Horner score, I think, is actually my favorite. That might top this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you all the way.
But just something about it feels very heroic. It feels very, like, uplifting and epic all at the same time. There's something about it that just works.
all aspects of this really nail the Spider-Man character, including the music.
Especially the way it starts to like swell when you start swinging.
Mm-hmm.
Like the music just starts swelling, like when you like dive off a building or when you when you're doing anything that's like very Spider-Man like.
Yeah,
it's like the game knows and the music kicks on.
Yeah, and then you're living the movie. Like that's what you're doing.
And
if
that's
it were
something
a
that
movie,
this game does incredibly well. Not only just like the timing with it, but just like the way it sounds too. Like it's good music all around.
I talked about it a little bit about the kind of the world building of this universe.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually tie-in comics and novels to this specifically. I think there's like a prequel.
There's a prequel novel. I know of the prequel novel. I haven't read it. I know there's also a tie-in comic. I haven't read that either.
It might be on Marvel Unlimited. We might be able to find it.
We could probably very easily find it.
It's definitely there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that world, like, it's interesting that they do that. I'm curious to see what they actually add to the world. I'm sure it's specific to the character of Spider-Man. But now that you mentioned world building, like, there's also, like, we know that other heroes exist in this universe because Avengers Tower is in New York City.
I really hope they do something more with this.
Yeah.
But specifically the landmark kind of side mission-y thing you do where you collect tokens by taking pictures of landmarks.
Nelson and Murdoch, attorneys at law. You see Alias investigations.
Yeah. All that's in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
There's the Sanctum Sanctorum is in the game. Obviously, there's Avengers Tower, which is way too large.
It's
but it's there.
Tony Stark probably designed it.
It's 3 times taller than the one in the movie, by the way. Like, it's really big.
Massive.
I think it's the tallest building in the game. Like, it's taller than, like, the fake Freedom Tower.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Bigger than Empire State Building. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What else is in this game? There's a statue of Lockjaw.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very interesting because that's not a well-known character.
He replaces the bull in downtown in the financial district. There are secret photo ops, too, which brings up a ton more, like, fun little things. There's graffiti all over town of different things, of like all the villains have graffiti, like artwork on walls. There's a graffiti of J. Jonah Jameson dressed as a baby. It's like a caricature. It's awesome. Like there's great little things like that. There's also, we didn't mention, there's a whole Black Cat
side story,
little findables side story. Plus then like there's her DLC.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in addition to all those things that you can like kind of find and discover, all the little discoverables, the way New York is laid out is kind of amazing.
It's like a real city in the game.
Yes. And it's so easy to just swing hundreds of feet up in the air and ignore it all. But if you just like go on the ground and just walk a few city blocks, I look at it, I'm like,
there's different
how did
shops,
they do this? Every road seems unique. And I'm not sure if they are. Like, I'll look at a building and I'm like, you know, it'll be like this restaurant and it looks like a unique location. I'm like, there has to be at least 5 more of these, right? Like, there's no way they just designed this for just this one little unit of space in the game. And there's a million more of these.
Yeah.
You know? And I think I've seen a couple of the same bank.
Like, some assets are going to be reused just for the sake of time.
No, but I'm saying it's so detailed that, like, it's hard to find. It's actually hard to find because, like, there are times where you can look inside buildings, especially in the PS4 version, and you see the same room over and over again. And you completely understand that. There's no reason why they would ever need to animate. It's all an algorithm, too. The room is different when you come back and look at it. Maybe.
It like shuffles between.
Yeah. All that doesn't need to be rendering all the time. But anyway, you don't get the same feeling when you're on the ground. You feel like everything is unique and was put there purposefully. And when you're in Chinatown, there's a lot of Chinatown stuff. Yeah. You go to Hell's Kitchen, everything's gonna beat up and shit. You know, you go to Midtown, everything's nice. The Upper West Side is super nice.
The different neighborhoods actually have like a different life to them.
Yeah, it's not just a border like, oh, I've crossed into this neighborhood. You can tell that you're in a different neighborhood. It's just such an immersive game, and I think one of my favorite parts is you can change the weather after you beat the game. Yeah, which is really fun because like the city looks really pretty in the sunset, but then it's fun in nighttime. You know.
Yeah. And wearing the Amazing Spider-Man suit's great at night.
Oh my god! And then all the suits.
Yeah, so many.
Oh my god! There's so many. There's at least like 40
and there's
or something.
Some you haven't even seen yet because they're in the DLC only.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna do that now. I know there's a couple that are PS5 exclusives.
Yeah,
I think most of
like the No Way Home stuff is PS5 exclusive.
Makes me so angry because I want that suit. But I did love, as these movies were coming out, they were adding these suits in. Like I think Homecoming suit was already in the game, but then the Far From Home suits, those were added.
Yeah, they added
after the fact.
like the stealth suit, which is the Night Monkey suit.
Yeah,
and his
and the
suit
black
that he
suit.
actually makes
Yeah.
with like the black and the red.
Oh yeah. The Iron Spider, that was in
That was part of the
Infinity War though. So who knows?
I
I don't know when
they
that
showed
dropped.
at the end of Homecoming.
Yeah, but I don't know when they dropped that one because then it had
It came out with the game.
Okay.
The game came out the same year as Infinity War, actually, 2018.
That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
don't know if it came out at the same exact time, but it comes with the spider arms and everything. There's a classic suit that's kind of cartoony because it's supposed to be like the comic book suit.
Yeah,
Love that one.
it's a really good looking suit. It looks really weird when you're standing next to other characters.
Or like in a cut scene.
Like it
you're
looks like you don't
"Ugh."
belong.
Yeah.
There's a Spirit Spider,
Oh yeah.
Scarlet Spider suit. There's a few of the Spider Armor suits. But yeah, there's a plethora of suits to choose from. A lot of them actually come with abilities that you can swap out to.
Yeah. My new favorite ability is quips. Because it's just kind of like, oh, new quips I haven't heard.
Yeah, and if
like,
you're good enough at the game, you don't need an
you know,
armor ability.
Once
so.
you're like level 50 or whatever, it's like if I'm about to die, all right, I'll switch to Web Blossom real quick. But otherwise, just go with quips.
Yeah.
There's probably a million other games that do this, but I'm reminded more of Arkham with the upgradables that you slowly get to like unlock.
Oh,
and
like you upgrade your
and
gadgets
skills
and your
techniques. That was very Arkham, and I feel it does it better than Arkham in this way because Arkham, like, for example, in Arkham City, you start out pretty bare bones, and then like you unlock a bunch of shit. By the end of the game, you're amazing, and then by the sequel to that game, you're bare bones again. You know what I mean? And then in Origins, which is a prequel, you get stuff that you didn't have in the future. So it's kind of like,
and stuff
what's
that's like
Batman
way better.
doing? Yeah,
but it's just a product of it being a game that was made later, and they're like, this would be cool to add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing here? You know what I mean? Whereas in this, it's kind of like, well, first of all, it's the first Spider-Man game, but like he's kind of rediscovering a lot of things. He's creating new gadgets as he goes.
Yeah.
A lot of those gadgets I just didn't use, like Web Bomb and Impact Web, but like they probably should have. They were very useful.
I never really used them either, but like I've seen people do some like fun stuff with them.
Yeah.
It's just, it wasn't my play style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. You don't have to play a certain way.
No,
You can do whatever
play
the hell
game
you
however
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like me, I don't sneak at all. I swing right into the crime and start beating the shit out of people.
You swing into the middle of the crowd, and everyone
just
just
start
like
punching.
Everyone just starts attacking you at once. I'm like, what the fuck
And
are you
I
doing?
always make it out.
But you could have just, it seems risky, and you could have just gone around. You could have started from a small batch of people, and you could have done some stuff.
I'm role playing a more aggressive Spider-Man.
Stop pulling my punches. You still want to be Andrew Garfield.
I want to
is what
be
you're
Andrew
saying.
Garfield. I just swing in there and start beating them up. They
Well-
shoot missiles at me, I throw them back.
Yeah. I love all of the finishers in this game.
They're kind of brutal.
First of all, they're incredibly brutal, and we joked around a lot while we were playing this game. I'm like, all these people are dead. Like,
That guy's neck is broken.
there's
That guy
no way.
got thrown off a building.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no way people are surviving this shit. Like, this is
no.
bullshit.
But in canon, Spider-Man probably didn't do that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just us playing.
But not only are they super aggressive, they're just really choreographed very well.
Yes.
And they're really fun to
And
do.
they use one of the moves in No Way Home.
Yeah. I think they used a couple. We talked about it in our No Way Home review.
Where he uses the webs and shoots them at the ground and
and
uses
then
it to like
pulls
propel himself.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that one's good.
To get like a harder kick in.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think that's all I got. I think
And
that's
like
all
I have
to
like
say about
nothing
this
but
game.
praise too. So
It's really hard to nitpick anything. I'm really hard pressed to find. And there's a part in the game where you find a scientist, you find a person, you save him, who just takes you to a scientist, who just takes you to another scientist, and he takes you to the thing, which then immediately gets lost, and then you gotta get the thing back.
Yeah.
All that stuff is very video gamey. You know, it just gives you stuff to do. In a movie, in a regular narrative, that
would have been cut.
that's
in,
bad.
Like a movie.
That's just badly written stuff. But yeah, final thoughts. Man, this is a top game.
One of the top games you've ever played. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. I've loved Spider-Man games ever since the N64 one, the movie tie-in ones. And there have been times when I've been itching for a Spider-Man game, and I wish I knew you to tell me which ones were the good ones and which ones were the bad ones. Because I bought Amazing Spider-Man. I was like, I played a couple levels. I was like, yeah, it's fine, but I don't know. It's not doing it for me.
It probably
you
wasn't
know?
the right time to jump back in.
Yeah, right. I told myself for a long time I didn't need this game because I didn't want to spend $400 on a PlayStation just to
Right.
play Spider-Man when I wasn't playing a whole lot of games. So like it didn't justify me owning a brand new console.
Yeah.
You know, I ended up doing it. I ended up buying it used for about half its original value. So like I feel like I got a good deal. And then I took a big break because I was playing this game, and then unfortunately like my dog passed. And it happened while she was old and she lived a very good life. She went out very peacefully. I should just say that. But it happened while I was playing this game. So like I got home from the vet and we had put her down and like the game was still on.
And you're like, I don't really want
I'm like, I can't. I tried playing it again like a couple days later. I'm like, I can't do this.
You weren't feeling it.
Yeah. Like this is tied in with a bunch of like bad experience now. And like that was 2 years ago. So then when we said like, hey, we should play this game, I'm like, I actually want to finish it now. Like I've moved past that now.
You're reinvigorated.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can disassociate this game with like that very traumatic experience.
Right.
You know, and so it was very satisfying to play this game from the beginning and then finish it finally and see the end of this incredible story.
And it's good to know that the story isn't quite over yet, too.
Yeah, and I'm glad they take their time because we were just looking at that list and some of those games are like
Year after year.
Year after year. And it's like, okay, well, how good do you think the game's going to be if you just, knock it out that next year?
It definitely suffers in quality.
Yeah. Take your time, make a great sequel. In the meantime, there's 3 DLCs. There's the Miles Morales game. Like, they're still entertaining you. The game is very dense. You could play it for 1,000,000 hours and still have fun.
Yeah, 100% of this game takes some time, so.
Yeah, and I'm going to do it. But I have this problem where, like, as soon as I finish a game, I lose interest in it. That's why I purposefully try to do as much as I can without beating it. And the product of that is that I barely beat any games. All right, do you have any final thoughts?
Get this game, buy this game, play this game. Like, you need to experience it. If you don't have a PS4 or a PS5, find one.
Find one. Dumpster dive for PS4s.
Sony's been putting a lot of their games on PC lately, but I don't think they're going to put this one on PC.
They wouldn't dare.
No.
And
it's too much of a cash cow for their console.
And I really thought, I was like, oh, maybe in like 3 years after release, it'll be on PC. Well, when I didn't want to buy a PlayStation.
They just put God of War on PC.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So it's like, maybe there's still hope, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
This is Spider-Man. Don't forget that for a long time.
Sony pays a lot of money to make people think they own the rights to all of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They don't.
Right. They don't own the video game rights.
No, they just
pretend like they do by snatching it.
By paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they just own the studio that made this game. Don't
forget also that they use like the fonts from Spider-Man in like PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like the PS3's font was taken directly from Spider-Man.
Well, because honestly, it's the biggest property that they have any rights to.
I think they just liked it.
Well,
like they
probably liked it too, but also they're going to milk it for all it has.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, guys. Well, that is it for Marvel's Spider-Man, the video game. This is the first video game episode we did. How do you think we did? Was this fun?
I liked it.
Are we going to do more of these?
I don't mind doing it.
It's one of those things where like we started doing it and I'm like, we have a lot to say about these video games. Like, it's a big chunk of our childhood, I guess.
Should it be like a separate thing? Like games from PC?
No. It's just a video game series. We're not going to get complicated. But yeah, so no Phantom Zone. So, guys, we will be back next week. Berto, what movie are we doing next?
Catwoman, starring Halle Berry.
That's right. Catwoman 2004. Known to be one of the worst comic book movies ever made. Known to be one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, apparently it's worse than Elektra, and we hated that movie.
Yeah, it has one of the worst reputations ever.
Is it worse than Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance?
But we'll find out. So we are kind of trying to get ready for the Batman.
We can also watch The Dark Knight Rises.
We cannot do that, Berto.
We can watch it on our own time and not talk about it.
Okay, cool. So that's available on HBO Max right now. And it should be for forever, hopefully. HBO Max is weird sometimes. So if you want to watch that movie, I guess if you want to watch that movie, you can. No one's making you. We're making ourselves do it. If not, then just hear us talking about it. Most people have seen that movie anyway. I feel...
Younger people might not have.
Patience Phillips, that's her name.
That's not a real person.
I know. Did you know that Catwoman movie was originally a spin-off for Batman Returns? It was supposed to be Michelle Pfeiffer's movie.
I feel like that would have been better.
Probably, because she did a really good job.
At least she was a character.
Yeah. And then it evolved so much that they just kind of retooled it into this garbage.
It's like there's like supernatural shit in this movie too, right? It's like a
so
cat god.
Weird. Yeah. So I'm excited. This is what we do best, is bad shit.
Oh man.
The worse and the cringier, the better, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing on your podcast app. Thank you to that piano dude for a musical intro. Make sure you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else that you can leave a rating or review. Please tell a friend. And if you've told a friend, thank you so much for telling that friend. Word of mouth, that's how we get into people's ears.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram at Films from the Phantom Zone, and you can find us to argue with us on Twitter at Films from PZ. You can find us at TikTok at Films from PZ, and you can listen to all these episodes on YouTube at Films from the Phantom Zone. If you would prefer listening to podcasts on a browser while you work from home, whatever it is you do, hey, that is an option. We are there as well. We record all these episodes live on Twitch at twitch.tv/filmsfrompz. If you like the show, you want to be a part of the show, you want to be here with us while we talk about this, that is absolutely possible. You can hang out with us on chat, on stream, live. It's not the same experience.
No, we mess up a lot.
We've taken a lot of breaks, talking to people on the chat a lot, and all that gets cleaned up and polished by the final episode. But, if you bring up a good point, you probably get name dropped. And if you've heard us talking to people on the chat, name drop, and those are people that are here live with us hanging out, you can do that. That's most Monday nights at 8 o'clock on twitch.tv/filmsfrompz. And if you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon, Films from the Phantom Zone. And other than that, covered everything.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's our usual outro.
That's how it goes. So we will see you guys next time with Catwoman, again on HBO Max. And goodbye.
Goodbye.